just 2 years before October 7th, right after the Guardian of the Walls operation, we had a hearing in the Knesset, and we said that. I spoke there. I think also Miravivi were there, and many people here were in that room. And we said the next round is going to be much worse, and it's just around the corner. It's just a matter of time. We knew something was happening, but we decided, we were afraid to deal with the situation. We decided to kick the can down the road. And I think today, it's nice to talk about October 7th. We need to focus on our next challenge. What's going to be the next future? How to prevent the next war from happening. I don't think Hamas feels that it's destroyed. I think Hamas feels that they have a challenge. I don't think Hezbollah feels defeated. I think they're seeing it as a challenge. Now, let's talk about what would have happened if on October 7th, when Hamas attacked, and at the same time, Hezbollah would have shot and went into the towns up north, while Iran is sending those ballistic missiles. At the same time, Yemen is sending their missiles. Thousands of terrorists coming in from Jordan, while in Judea and Samaria, terrorists are entering the communities in Judea and Samaria. Arabs in Jerusalem, in the Galilee, in the Negev, in Ramle and Lod, the same way, just in 21 they did, would have attacked in the same time. I'm afraid to say, without the help of God, I don't think we were able to be here today. Let's focus on our next challenges. In the past 3 years, before October 7th, the government already started, the government of Israel started dealing with two major major issues that for years they were that can that were kicked down the road. The challenge in Judea and Samaria, where the Palestinian Authority is creating, de facto, in the past 15 years, has been creating de facto a Palestinian state, an area under full Israeli control. That's the first challenge Israel started facing. And the second challenge is the challenge of the Negev. Thank you. The Negev, I'm going to focus today on the challenge of the Negev, since I feel that the challenge of Judea and Samaria is a little bit in the spotlight in this room. I don't think people are really aware of what's happening in the Negev. That's why I chose to speak about the Negev. Now, this is not the first time I've been speaking in a Besheva Conference. In the past, I spoke about the challenges. What is the problem? Today, I want to focus on what's the solution. And it's happening. We are changing reality in the Negev. So let's talk about it. How do we change reality? How do we change what's happening? So the way we do it is, first of all, we collect the dots. Then we connect the dots. After that, we communicate the findings, and we present the necessary answers that the government has to take in order to solve these issues. What does it mean? How does that play out? What's connecting the dots? So let's look at the Negev, okay? I'm sorry. Naomi, can you be here? Okay. What you see here, the video that you just saw, many of you went on this road. That's the road connecting Beersheba to Dimona. On the way down to Eilat, you go on that road. You see all these illegal structures on the side of the road, illegal encampments of Bedouins that took over land grabs. Now, but most of us don't really know how many structures are there. What is the issue? How is it possible for people just to build illegally without paying taxes, marrying multiple wives? How is it possible? How does that happen? So we have people down on the ground, down in the field, taking pictures, mapping out the situation. We use drones. We go into all the different issues, such as the water pollution, such as just what you see here on the mapping. That's a mapping, GIS mapping of the illegal drug greenhouses that are actually established within firing zones of the IDF in the Negev. What you see here, those are illegal drug greenhouses. So we map all these things, and what we come up with is a final bigger picture of what's actually happening in the Negev. I'm sorry, the clicker is working very, very slow. All these different actions happening, illegal schools being built, illegal pavements being paved, right? Dumping just garbage out there in the open land. All these issues that we are dealing with, mapping them out and coming up with a bigger picture. Now this is the bigger picture, right? This is where we put the dots together. What you see here is Sheva, Arad, Dimona. 6, and all these dots in the middle, all the red and yellow dots, those are illegal structures that were built in the Negev by the Bedouins. More than 100,000 illegal structures. Over an amount of land of 650,000 dunam. That's twice the Gaza Strip. A huge issue. So once we get the bigger picture, we understand the picture now, we create the documents, the reports, explaining what's happening on the ground, explaining how did that happen, what are the reasons for this to happen, and we come up with legislation of what is the right way, what's the right policy to solve this issue.
Let's talk about Bedouin and the Negev. More precisely, about land in the Negev and who does it belong to. Some say that the Bedouin have only 45 illegal villages that they're asking the state to recognize. Only 45? That doesn't sound so terrible. Let's take a closer look at these 45 villages. Is this a village? And what about this? And these? How about these? And these? And all of these? What you see isn't 45 villages. What you see is 2,300 clusters. And the area covered by these clusters is greater than Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and Beersheba combined. Israel's government has created 18 settlements exclusively for the Bedouin of the Negev. In addition, because the Bedouin are citizens with full and equal rights, they can live anywhere in Israel. Bedouin tribes have taken control over hundreds of thousands of dunams of land in the Negev. We must stop this madness. It's time to bring the state back to the Negev.
Okay, so that's the ability of taking a huge issue and putting it into a 2-minute video, right? That's also not an easy challenge. Once we do that, once we have the policy, we try to bring members of Knesset, members of the government down to the Negev. Well, you see Amichai Shikli here. You see Amichai Shikli up over there as a member of Knesset. Now, what happened after that tour? After the tour of the Negev, when he saw such a huge issue and he got the documents from us, he said, when I become a minister, I'm going to ask to be in charge of this. He's not here right now, but I want to applaud to Amichai Shikli because he's the first minister in the history of Israel that asked to deal with this issue. The first minister in the history of Israel that asked to deal with this issue, and since he came into office 3 years ago, things are changing. So we take the ministers, we take the members of Knesset, we explain to them what the situation is. Sometimes that is enough, such as like with Amichai Shikli, that's enough for him to take action. Many times that's not enough, and we have to work with the media for public pressure, because we all know it's all about prioritizing the different issues. And members of Knesset, ministers have many, many different issues on their table. It's a matter of making this issue the top of the pile. We present the legislation, very, very detailed, how to solve this huge issue. And I'm not going to go into details because I don't have enough time for that. But we show the roots of the problem, what is the right way to solve each and every problem. Within each root has its own way of treatment, and each minister has its own job. But to make a long story short, because this issue is so big, is so broad, The recommendations are to divide the Negev into certain areas and take care of each and every area. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening today. And if I click forward to see before and after, just in the past year, you see before and after. One example. Another example, before and after. Another example, before and after. 80 encampments, illegal, that were evacuated by the government. And it's happening, it's changing. I want to, yishal koach, a big yishal koach to the government, to Amichai Shikli, to Ben Gvir, to the different ministers that are pushing this forward and changing reality, changing history. What you see here is a graph. We do every 2 years, we map out the whole situation in the Negev, such we do in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria. But what you see here is the historical change. You see the numbers that went up. The previous government, you see it started going back up again. The illegal structures, this is the graph of the illegal structures. You see it goes back up again, the previous government, and now you see it's gone down, and that's a change of reality. Reality is changing in Judea and Samaria. Reality is changing in the Negev. Reality is going to change also in Jerusalem and up in Galilee. I invite you to take part and be part of changing history. Thank you very much.
It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Yonatan Kuznets, the head of the Karnei Shomron Council. He serves one of the largest and fastest growing communities in Samaria.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. בשנה האחרונה לא הפסקנו להזיע. כי בקרני שומרון עובדים בהילוך גבוה. בשנה האחרונה אנחנו עובדים כדי לממש את הפוטנציאל האדיר של קרני שומרון, להיות מרכז אזורי מוביל והלב הפועם של ההתיישבות בשומרון. השקענו מיליונים במרכיבי ביטחון, בפרויקטים ביטחוניים ובהון האנושי של אגף הביטחון, כדי שכולנו נרגיש בטוחים בבית. עשינו היסטוריה והקמנו כאן אולפנה חדשה וצומחת כדי שיהיו לנו מוסדות חינוך קרובים לבית. השקעה בתרבות וספורט היא השקעה באיכות החיים של כולנו, ואנחנו עושים את הכל כדי שזה יהיה קרוב לבית. כולנית! היום כבר כולם מבינים שמשהו גדול קורה כאן, וקרני שומרון הפכה למוקד עלייה לרגל. עבדנו השנה בכל הכוח, וברוך השם הספקנו הרבה, והכל מתוך אחריות וצמיחה כלכלית. יש עוד הרבה חלומות להגשים, אנחנו על זה. Thank you. So, my name is Yonatan Kuznets. I'm the mayor of Karnei Shomron, which is proud to be the second largest local municipality in Yehuda v'Shomron, Judea and Samaria. I'm the youngest person to have ever been elected to this public office, a fact that has far less to do with me and more to do within the changes happening in Israel as a result of October 7th. Now, many things came tumbling down together with the walls of Gaza the morning of the attack. In fact, I don't think anyone has truly begun to understand the effects October 7th will have on the years to come. But here is one of the effects that can already be noticed. the old world order, with all its policies and politics, came crashing down and made way for newly found faith, or perhaps even hope, in the younger generations. And I think that is the context for understanding my nomination. It wasn't because I promised to freeze rent or provide free public transportation, and it definitely wasn't because of my English. You see, I, like many, was called up that morning of Simchat Torah to my infantry unit of Golani graduates. After 3 months of combat service, I returned home from the war with a decision to leave my real estate job and dedicate myself to public office in my hometown, in the hometown I grew up in. Elections were coming up, and in a quick decision, I ran for mayorship together with a staff who are mostly Miluimnikim reservists. We ran for office with a drive to better our municipality and give back to the community from which we received our education, ideology, and sense of home. Neve Aliza of Karnei Shomron, the neighborhood I grew up in, is an ideological powerhouse of devotion. We lost 14 members of the community during the war, 9 soldiers, 3 young ladies at Nova Music Festival, and 2 more from terror attacks. 75 members were wounded, most of which I grew up with. It is hard for me to say if I cried more times from the tragedies that happened or from the overwhelming acts of chesed and gvura that the Yishuv members did throughout the war. How they embarrassed the families of the wounded and the casualties, supporting the wives of reservists who are at the war. And just a small example, since the war began on Simchat Torah, all the young men left that morning with all the Sukkot still up. So as winter was coming and the husbands weren't coming home, our youth movements went house by house of each of the reservist families and took apart the Sukkot for them. These last 2 years have been experiences that are simply hard to put into words, both as a warrior and equally as a mayor of such an incredible community. And now, the war has ended. But to quote the song of Melanie C., it's just the beginning, it's not the end. Things will never be the same again. For so many soldiers, the glorious victory of our national war after 2 years marks the beginning of their own personal, lifelong battle. According to the IDF, as of today, 6,400 soldiers were wounded during the war. As you can all imagine, these wounded are certainly glorified heroes, with articles and items about them in the news, surrounded by famous singers, actors, and politicians who come for photo ops in the hospital. But soon, very soon, the stardust will settle. The adrenaline rush will go away. The celebrities will move on. And those soldiers will be left alone with their prosthetics, their nightmares, and their struggle to rehabilitate. We can't and we won't let that happen. We will fight for them as they have fought for us. We will not let them carry these wounds and scars by themselves. After much planning and rezoning, the Karnei Shomron Council has recently green-lighted the plan for building one of the largest rehabilitation village for soldiers in Israel. And we intend to provide nothing but the best for the best. Best professionals, best equipment, best treatments, and in all disciplines. The new city plans allocate 5,000 square meters, about 54,000 square feet, with the capacity to treat a few hundred soldiers in a given time. Overlooking the picturesque hills and valleys of the Shomron, the center will, God willing, become a healing home for our heroes. A question that can be asked is, why should one of the largest rehabilitation centers be in Yehuda Shomron? Well, only about 5% of the Israeli population live there. Well, first of all, It is the geographical center of Israel. But more importantly, the number of warriors, of wounded, of casualties from Yehuda v'Shomron are far above 5% of the total sum and closer to 50%. I cannot give you a concrete number since the IDF sees this information as politically or socially sensitive. While the IDF may take such sensitive topics into consideration when caring for our soldiers, we cannot. We want to provide the best care and bring that care to them. And we want to provide easy and quick access for their support system, their families and friends. The Yehuda v'Shomron is proudly the capital of warriors. They deserve to have the best care at home. I would like to end with the beginning. When my unit and I were called up on October 7th, we were sent to hold part of the northern border with Lebanon near the Hermon mountain. The surprise attack from Gaza had the entire army in shock and awe, and the assessment of fear in the first weeks of the war was that Hezbollah would be invading at any moment. After midnight of day 7 of the war, our base was suddenly bombarded by Hezbollah. Usually, this would mean we need to all take cover from the bombs, but not in this situation, because this is exactly the kind of technique we expected the enemy to use before invasion. So we quickly started to prepare. Loud sirens, 20 seconds to put on gear and load up, bomb shells falling, 2 minutes for every soldier to assume their post, automatic gunshots in the distance. As a far outpost, we had only our platoon and no backup on the way. Our platoon commander takes the radio and yells out the coordinates of the enemy. I won't lie, I was very scared that night. Probably the most scared I ever felt. But after a few minutes that felt like forever, the artillery came. Israeli bombs out of nowhere started falling on the Lebanese side of the border, lightening up the mountain and valley below. The enemy attack was over. Fast forward a month into the war, I happened to meet up with my brother-in-law in a falafel stand up north. We were both on a short vacation from the army, heading down home. He too serves in Miluim, stationed several miles away from me. As I was telling him the story I just told you, he stopped me to ask what day exactly this happened. It turns out he was the one who received the yelling of my platoon commander on the radio and immediately gave his artillery soldiers the order to fire away. We took a selfie and we each sent it to our platoon. Him with caption of, "Look who we saved," and me with caption of, "Look who saved us." From our perspective, we were on the front lines and saved by some anonymous artillery fired from miles away. From their perspective, they were given some random coordinates to fire at and did. We realized that Brothers in Arms, not the organization, the movie, isn't about being physically close. It's about committing yourself to the same goal and destiny, of having each other's backs no matter the distance. That is what conference is all about, isn't it? This conference and all Jews around the world are one huge artillery unit who have the coordinates of Eretz Israel and fire away to aid their brothers in arms, no matter the distance. And I am here to tell that what you are sending, your thoughts, prayers, care, support, they are all well received. You from your end and us from our end, together we're working for common destiny of Am Israel Chai. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Even from miles away, you can save lives. You can heal traumas. you can heal, you can help rehabilitate injuries. These random coordinates far away are home and lives being rehabilitated and rebuilt. In the last week's parasha, we learn about the struggle that defines us as a people. Yaakov struggling with Esav's angel, a struggle that gave birth to our new name, Israel. A struggle that he won, but left him wounded. Together, let us promise to never repeat the situation of Vayivater Yaakov levado. We will not leave our soldiers alone. I want to say something that is the first time I'm saying it here. I'm very proud to say that Karnei Shomron, a few hours ago, signed a roof agreement of expanding to more 6,000 housing units in Karnei Shomron. We will make that will make us the largest city in the Shomron area. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Yonatan Kuznets, for sharing this moving moment with us. And now, well, as you know, in Israel, just like in America, there's always plenty of drama around passing of the state budget. We didn't have a 40-plus day government shutdown, but the votes in the Knesset did unfortunately prevent some of the several ministers who wanted to be here physically today from participating, but they still want to be involved and part of this day from afar. So let's turn to the screen and turn to the Besheva studio at the Israeli Knesset right now, where Besheva's parliamentary correspondent Asaf Mishniot is joined by Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir.
שוב שלום לכם בהכנס במיאמי, כנס בשבע במיאמי. אנחנו משדרים פה מהכנסת בירושלים, כי לצערנו אנחנו לא יכולים להיות איתכם שם. איתי נמצא כרגע השר לביטחון לאומי, השר איתמר בן-גביר. שלום לך, השר איתמר.
שלום, שלום אסף, שלום לכל הצופים, לכל החברים הטובים במיאמי. בכלל ארצות הברית, אוהב אתכם מאוד.
אני רואה שיש לך פה סיכה שאני עוד לא מזהה על הידה של חליפה.
זו סיכה שמדברת על חוק מאוד מאוד חשוב שאנחנו רוצים להעביר בכנסת. האמת שביבי הבטיח לי אותו כבר לפני כמה שנים, אבל אני עכשיו תפסנו מה שנקרא מסלול ההצעה של החוק הזה, חוק עונש מוות למחבלים. תראה אסף, בישראל היה גן עדן למחבלים פעם. לפני שבאתי בבתי הסוהר, היה להם הכל, זה היה כמו איזשהו מלון בלס וגאס, חוץ מאולי הקזינו, היה להם הכל, אוכל, שוקולדות, מרמלדות, בשר כבש, פינג פונג, כדורגל, כדורסל, פוטבול לא היה שם, אבל באמת היה לי כל...
זה אין גודל של המגרש.
כן, בדיוק, אבל היה דשא, מדשאות, ואנשים שרצחו ילדים, רצחו תינוקות. אני גאה אסף, שבמשמרת שלי שינינו את הכל. הורדתי להם את הלימודים האקדמיים ואת המרמלדות והשוקולדות. הורדתי להם את התפריט, הם תמיד באו לשם מאוד מאוד רזים, יצאו שמנים, אז הם היום באים שמנים, יוצאים רזים, עד כדי כך שאשתי אומרת לי מדי פעם, גם אתה כמה ימים, תהיה שם תעשה דיאטה, אבל יש משילות בבתי הכלא, הורדנו להם הרבה דברים, את הטלוויזיה ואת הרדיו ואת הכדורגל ואת הפינג-פונג, ובעיקר החזרנו את המשילות. אבל אני חושב שהחוק הזה עונש מוות, הוא מוסרי, הוא צודק, הוא אמיתי. יש את זה בארצות הברית, גם בישראל.
אני אשאל אותך בשתי שאלות. האחת, החוק הזה מיותר, רוב המחבלים הם מחבלים שנתפסו תוך כדי פעילות צבאית. החוק קיים בדין הצבאי, אפשר להפעיל אותו שם, פשוט מעולם לא הפעילו אותו שם. והדבר השני, אתה לא חושב שהחוק הזה בסופו של דבר ישמש דווקא לפגיעה, דווקא במישהו מואשמים בתור יהודי, כי אנחנו יודעים שמערכת המשפט שלנו אוהבת לעשות סימטריה גם במקומות שבהם אין סימטריה בתחום הזה.
אז קודם כל החוק הזה הולך להיות, לפי מה שאנחנו מבקשים, חוק חובה. חובה, בדין הצבאי יש התלבטות, להגיש, לא להגיש, פרקליטות אף פעם לא מגישה. כאן אני בכלל לא רוצה לשאול את הפרקליטות. מישהו מחבל שפעל בפעילות טרור נגד מדינת ישראל, דינו מוות. והדבר השני, וזה קשור לשאלה שלך, לסייפה, זה בדיוק מה שאתה אומר. כלומר, מי שפועל נגד מדינת ישראל זה משהו אחד. אני לא אומר, יש כאלה גם יהודים שבאים והורגים ערבים. צריכים לשבת בכלא, זה פשע חמור, זה לא בסדר. סתם לבוא ולהרוג ערבי. אבל זה לא טרור, זה לא משהו נגד מדינת ישראל, זה לא משהו שהוא תופעה, לכן החוק חל על רק משהו תופעה, על משהו טרור, על משהו נגד המדינה, אני חושב שהוא חוק מאוזן ונכון.
בואו נדבר על הנאום של ראש הממשלה אתמול, על ההצהרה של התקשורת יחד עם קנצלר גרמניה, פרידריך מרץ. הוא אומר שישראל מתכוננת שם לשלב ב' של עסקת טראמפ. בסופה של עסקת טראמפ, של התוכנית טראמפ, אמורה לקום מדינה פלסטינית. איך ממשלת ימין יכולה לקדם תוכנית כזאת, או ש...
לא יכולים לקדם,
אני חלק מממשלה כזאת.
לא, אז אני צריך להגיד. אני מאוד 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 מכבד את האמריקאים, את הממשל האמריקאי, מאוד מעריך גם את הנשיא, גם את האחרים.
לא הממשל האמריקאי, זה הממשל נתניהו.
דקה שנייה. אבל אני חושב שהממשל האמריקאי שהבטיח, ואני לא דובר של ראש הממשלה, גם ראש הממשלה לפעמים עושה טעויות. אני לפעמים מבקר אותו מצד ימין. בנושא הזה האמריקאים באים ואומרים לראש הממשלה, אנחנו נפרק, החמאס יתפרק. אתה תראה שהחמאס יתפרק, אני חושב שחולמים. אני חושב שזה לא יקרה. אני חושב שבסוף גם ראש ממשלתנו מבין שאין לנו ברירה אלא ללכת ולהיכנס, ואו שהם יעשו הגליה, רצון, זה בסדר, או שאנחנו נצטרך להיכנס ולהגלות ולהרוג, כי אף אחד לא יעשה בשבילנו את העבודה. האמריקאים שחושבים שהם יביאו איזשהו צבא זר וכל מיני כוחות זרים והם יעשו שלנו את העבודה, הם טוב, אני אמרתי לקושניר, היו אצלנו קושניר ודיקוף והיו אצלנו בישיבה ממשלה, כולם מחאו כפיים, אני הייתי היחיד שגם אמרתי סליחה, מאוד מעריך אתכם, אבל בואו נגיד את האמת, אתם לא הייתם עושים בארצות הברית עסקאות של שחרור מחבלים, אתם לא הייתם משחררים רוצחים, אתם לא הייתם מאפשרים לאנשים שאנסו ורצחו ושרפו תינוקות ללכת הביתה, ומאוד ריגש אותי אחר כך שוויטקוף התראיין בתוכנית 60 דקות, הוא אמר פגשתי את השר בן גביר, כנראה שהוא איבד מישהו מהמשפחה שלו והוא דיבר איתי מאוד ברגש על האנשים שנרצחו. אני לא, ברוך השם, אף אחד מהמשפחה המצומצמת שלי לא נרצח, ונרצחו לי 2,000 אחים. כל מי שנרצח זה אח שלי, ובישראל כל מי שנרצח, נרצח לו אח, ככה אנחנו מתנהגים, זה האהבה שלנו, אהבת ישראל. אני אומר לכם גם, היהודים היקרים במיאמי, אני מקווה שאני מסתכל למצלמה הנכונה, אנחנו אוהבים אתכם, אתם חלק מהמשפחה שלנו, אנחנו מתגעגעים אליכם, אנחנו רוצים אתכם כאן, יודע, מיאמי וכל המקומות, הבן שלי היה שם איזה חודש והוא כל כך נהנה היום בסיירת, אבל הוא כל כך נהנה ואמר לי אבא מיאמי איזה כיף, איזה כיף, אבל גם הוא אומר וגם אני אומר וגם אתם אומרים, זה הבית שלכם, אנחנו מחכים לכם כאן בבית.
שאלה האחרונה ממש בקצרה, כי הזכרת פשוט את העניין שצריך, שבסוף אנחנו נצטרך לעשות את העבודה, היה לכם 2 לא עשיתם את העבודה, חמאס עדיין בעזה, נכשלתם כממשלה להוביל לניצחון על חמאס?
לא, קודם כל, בשנתיים האלה לפחות אני הפכתי את העולם, עשיתי דברים שלא נעשו כאן 30-40 שנה.
לא משנה, אתה חלק מהממשלה,
לא, דקה, שנייה.
חבר בקבינט.
קודם כל נגיד ליהודים שצופים בנו, ולא כל כך מכירים, אני בשנתיים האלה עשיתי מה ש30 שנה לא עשו, אם זה בנושא הנשקים, הרפורמת הנשק, אתה הרי יודע, אסף, שבשנה וחצי לפני שבאתי 8,000 רישיונות, היום יש 230,000 רישיונות בשנה וחצי.
זה נורא חשוב.
אתה יודע, כיתות כוננות, דקה שנייה, תכף נדבר על עזה. אתה יודע, כיתות כוננות לא היו, אני הקמתי 1,000 כיתות כוננות. אתה יודע שמשמר לאומי בניתי. אתה יודע שעשיתי דברים שבאמת, יסוד בנייה בנגב. לא נגעו להם אף פעם הבנייה, רק השנה 5,000 בתים. עכשיו לעזה. אז אני חושב שכן עשינו, הממשלה הזאת כן עשתה, וכן הביסה חמאס בעזה, ופגעה בחמאס בעזה, אבל זה עדיין לא ניצחון המוחלט. הרגנו 60,000 חמאסניקים, זה טוב, זה חשוב, אבל צריך להרוג עוד, וצריך לעשות עוד יותר, ואני לא סתם פרשתי בזמנו מהממשלה, כי כשביבי אמר, זהו, אני לא נלחם, אמרתי לו, אם מסיימים את המלחמה, אני פורש. אבל ביבי כרגע הבטיח ומבטיח לכולנו, אני לא יעזוב עד שיפרקו את חמאס, ובזה אני נותן לו גב, חייבים לפרק את חמאס אם זה יקרה מצוין, אם לא, נדפוק על השולחן.
השר לביטחון לאומי, איתמר בן גביר, תודה רבה לך.
תודה, תודה.
National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Now, to lead the next conversation, I would like to invite to the stage Ziv Maor, head of news at Galei Israel Radio, and he will be joined by Rabbi Shlomo Ra'anan, founder and director of Ayelet HaShachar organization.
30 years ago, Rav Shlomo Ra'anan, a man of vision and action, founded the Ayelet HaShachar organization. The vision was clear: to connect between the different sects in our nation: religious, ultra-Orthodox, secular, and traditional, in Israel and around the world. From then and until today, his vision turned into lively daily programs and activities. In every kibbutz and every moshav, from the Lebanon border to the Gaza Strip border, volunteers arrive anywhere a warm Jewish connection is needed. An enterprise bringing hearts closer every week. Thousands of people, thousands of stories. 12,000 volunteers active around the clock. 10,000 study groups every week in Israel and around the world. Men and women from all walks of life. 80 synagogues established in kibbutzim and moshavim where there were no prior minyanim. 186 families partnered in the communities. 45 Torah scrolls gifted to kibbutzim throughout the country. During the war, 1,200 pairs of tefillin for combat soldiers on the front lines. 3,000 Shabbat kits for families and evacuated communities. Behind every number, there is a person, there is a story, and there is a nation who rediscovers how close they actually are.
Ayelet Shachar, 30 years, building bridges and restoring trust.
Thank you. וואו, זה מסנוור. זה מסנוור.
So, as if being responsible for 80 synagogues throughout Israel is not a big enough of achievement, this is not going to be the base for our discussion. In order to lay the grounds for what we're going to discuss, there are two facts that not enough American Jews, for instance, know: that the kibbutzim are strongholds of leftism and secularism in Israel. Not enough Israelis know that the plights that Israel endured before the war, I'm talking about the outright defiance and calls for refusal due to the victory of the right-wing government in 2022, came from the kibbutzim. And in this mapleya, in this hall of darkness, this is the arena where Rabbi Ra'anan is working. And from there is going to bring us now great news, something yet to be exposed to the public. And this is the way that the communities in which you work adapt and absorb your work and the presence of Judaism, the presence of synagogue and services within the kibbutzim. Tell us the great news.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. First, I'd like to express my deep feeling for the community here in Miami, that they've very, very support Israel during the last 2 years, during the war. My organization, beside what we regularly doing, we had tremendous help, and we were able to deliver really serious support to the Israeli army, to the IDF, and it's all. I know that tens of containers was shipping from Miami community to Israel, and thank you very, very much. You know, it's old news, and I keep telling that in 1914, when the famous group of the rabbis went to the journey to visit the new settlement just a few months before the First World War break. So in Merchavia, if I remember, in Merchavia, stood up a farmer and he's steering on Rav Kook, Avram Yitzchak Kook Zatzal, and Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, famous, the Rav of Yerushalayim, and he asked that exact question. רבני ירושלים, איפה הייתם עד היום? Where you have been until today? That's more than 110 years ago. And I think that that question is asking every day, every hour, and maybe more than that. Where are you? Why you separate yourself, even brutally, away from us? Why can't we share life together? Why can't we be appreciated by you?
Trevor, you say that this question from 110 years ago resonates today, after October 7th, way stronger than it did before. So there was a gap. Describe the change that you sense in the atmosphere, in the kibbutzim, in the moshavim, where we work post-October 7th.
So I have to tell you a secret, that in the last 2 years, everybody asked me, Shlomo, you in the field. For 30 years, my staff and me go from town to town, from kibbutz to kibbutz, sharing time together, have many activities. And everybody asked me, Shlomo, what's happening? Do you feel the difference? Do you feel the third of unity? And I says, listen, it's hard for me to answer, but I can give you some facts. Many of kibbutzim and secular yeshuvim that never welcome synagogue, mikveh, they knock on the door and they says, Shlomo, please, I was able to go to the Knesset and go to Vadat HaKsafim,
Finance Committee.
yeah, and ask, listen, we have to do something. There's such a demand. And I think that was the first time in the history that Vadat HaKnesset gave money beside the budget, the regular budget, to help communities. What's happening that many of are in kind of a trauma in Israel. And we're thirsty to something that connects us. And I see while I'm speaking with מכינות קדם צבאיות, with high school teacher, and surprisingly also with principals of schools all over Israel. And day by day, we have many combined projects with all type. And I think, in a way, this is a huge opportunity. You know, we all spoke about the Haredim, about Jewish identity. We understood clearly today that one without the other will not work. The only way that we can survive in that Middle East jungle is to be strong. And in order to be strong, we have to be together.
So, Rabbi Shlomo, there is one piece, of course, one piece of data that I'm trying to extract from you for the beginning of this session. We have like 10 seconds left. The response of the communities themselves, the difference between the way they accepted your work and the presence of synagogues in their vicinities before and after October 7th, because over there hides a really great news, בשורה אמיתית.
I have to tell you, honestly, you know, the build the synagogue, it's not the story. It's a symbol. This is my business card. If I want to somehow to deliver my message I'm talking about, this is not. The real story is what's behind that. And I see that community that has tremendous fear from a change before the war and after the war. They called me and said, Shlomo, let's come and talk. I got from all over Israel. And I'm busy now helping 6, 7, before I finish this sentence will be more, and community that ask for assistance, for support, for guidance, how to do it correct. And I want to conclude my message that, you know, whenever you go in Israel, take a time and visit. Cross the border and go to a community that you're not regularly there. And do one thing. Just listen. Focus on listening. And you see how much you accomplish. Right now, we build shul, but we not only build shul, we help in other way. Now we focusing on building volunteer center in the south, in Eshkol. Will be a house of every Jewish soul. We also connected, we all feel the pain of what Am Yisrael had to go through. And we building now one center that welcome everybody. So, thank you. May you walk. Thank you. I want to invite all of you to join us in our activity, in our journey. And please, whoever come with me, beside his own benefit, but he helped me to strengthen the relationship in Israel.
Thank you, Ziv and Rabbi Shlomo. I now welcome Kyle Blank, CEO and Executive Director of Israel Friends, to shed light on the future of battlefields for Israelis from a mental health and domestic security perspective. Kyle.
What they're doing is so precious and so helpful, and they selflessly just give.
So we have one mission at Israel Friends: save lives. And what that means for us is deliver as many supplies as we can. We're good listeners. We ask you what you need. We ask you how we can help.
This is a thermal drone. This is an IFAC. Here we have an Acti kit. It's a medical piece of equipment where we step in as a nonprofit to protect and save as many Israelis as possible.
I literally hung up the phone with them, called Kyle right afterwards and said, Kyle, I need drones ASAP. He's like, which ones do you need, when, where? He sent 3 Avata drones to my team within 48 hours.
Everything they do turns to gold.
That's it? That's it? Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. 26 months ago, our people and nation were changed forever. And on that day, as you saw in the video, our organization was formed. And it was formed with a very specific mission: to protect and save as many Israeli lives as possible. The crisis impact we have had over these past 26 months has been tremendous, and much thanks to this community and communities across North America. We've been able to provide over $50 million of aid. We were born on October 7th, and we have brought over 500 tons of support to the people of Israel, mainly our defenders. Now, our 2 key focuses are how can we provide innovative solutions in the space of defense and the space of healthcare, of mental health, to protect our people where there are gaps in the system. And in that, it has meant providing over 40,000 hours of immediate access to psychiatric support, as well as over 10,000 drones, camera systems, and other technology solutions to our soldiers, whether they're in the tunnels or above the ground, wherever they may be. Now today, I'm here to speak about the two battlefields that we are experiencing today. We've spent 2 years in the field with mental health professionals, soldiers, first responders, and civilian guards. And what we see is that the battlefields of the future are that our people's mental health and our community's domestic security. When we speak about mental health, we see stuff in articles and online, but what I have here today is the most up-to-date numbers we could put together across the government and non-government agencies. The numbers are hard, so please bear with me. These are recent numbers from this past quarter. 15% of Israelis are experiencing significant mental health duress. 500,000 Israelis are experiencing PTSD, and 1 million Israelis are experiencing significant levels of anxiety and depression. These 1.5 million people, their mental health duress is impacting their day-to-day lives, and these numbers are going up. Now, in the best case scenario, we would have 1,000 patients for one psychiatrist in Israel. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that we have breakage in the system, that something is wrong and something must be done. So we sat as a team 25 months ago and said, how can we have an impact here? How can we bring an innovation to the Israeli healthcare system? And what we came up with was a telehealth platform that would provide immediate access to psychiatrists. Today, if you go to one of the 4 HMO providers in Israel, it will take you 6 or 7 months to see a psychiatrist. What does that look like? You just got out of Gaza or Lebanon, your spouse just got home, your parent just got out of reserves. If you ask for help today in December, you will not see someone until June or July. Our platform is seeing individuals in 3 days. In 3 days, we are providing access to psychiatrists. Now, this isn't alone. We have phenomenal partners that we've built over the war across the Ministry of Health, the resilience centers in the South and the North, and recently we signed partnership agreements with both Maccabi Health and Clalit Health. And the results have been very meaningful. We've been able to treat over 8,500 Israelis nationwide and provide them immediate access to psychiatrists. And in that, we have figures, we have proprietary data of what Israelis are experiencing. And you are the first audience to see it, and we're going back to Israel over the coming weeks and discussing it with the Ministry of Health and others for what we must do to protect our people. First is that 83% of people require medication. That means from all of the people being referred to psychiatrists, only 17% have minor levels of anxiety, depression, and PTSD. This is a tremendous number, not one understood by the Israeli healthcare system ever before. What's scarier is that of the 100%, of the 8,500 individuals, 30% require 3 medications a day or more, from 3 to 7 medications a day. This is the reality we're facing. The second harsh truth of our numbers is who needs care. 60% of the individuals we are speaking with are 18 to 45 years old. They are the young. They are the parents. They are the workforce. They are those who are building our country. And the truth, the scary truth, is that this isn't getting better. The numbers are going up. So the reason I came today and the reason I fly around the world in North America, one of the key reasons is to discuss this battlefield, because very often we see it as a silent epidemic. The country is being crushed by PTSD, depression, and anxiety, but too often we are not discussing it openly. As well, the numbers are going up. So if someone thought this was getting better, it's not. The fact is that month over month, we're treating patients in 3 days. So every month we have a new pool of individuals. Month over month, the request for psychiatric care is going up, not down. Because as the stress levels go up and down, people start to come forwards. We must fight this battlefield. The second space that we've been operating in for the last 2 years, as we saw, we've provided hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment to our defenders around the country, is around domestic security. on 10/7, most of us learned what a civilian guard is. Most of us didn't know what a civilian guard was before. But we saw communities that were saved, and we saw communities that were annihilated. And the biggest difference was if their civilian card was activated on time. And what we're seeing today is that some of those lessons that we discussed in 2023 and 2024, they're already being forgotten. The fact is, these are borders that we discuss. The Gaza envelope, which has tens of thousands of soldiers and now a perimeter, right, a gap. The northern border, which also has a buffer zone and tens of thousands of soldiers. Judea and Samaria, which is volatile, but it has had 30 years of civilian guard buildup since Oslo, as well as a significant army presence. And then what we've heard recently on TV, the Jordanian and Egyptian borders with smuggling, which we all know crime today can lead to terror tomorrow, as we saw 26 months ago. The scary part of this map is the most dangerous borders not being discussed. Right in the center of the country, left or west of Judea and Samaria in central Israel, over the 1949 armistice line, what you see is a volatile environment that people are not talking about. This is where I went with my senior team just a month ago. We went to the Lev Asharon municipality. We went to Nitzanei Oz, you can see down there. And right there, we were looking out on their camera systems, looking over Highway 6. Every single one of you has driven on Highway 6. Even the UN says that's Israel, regardless of where they're mistaken elsewhere. Everyone in the world says this is Israel, Highway 6. And the scary part is there's an 8 to 10 foot fence that you can simply jump over, and you're on Highway 6. In 3 minutes, you're in Nitzanei Oz. 3-minute walk. And a 25-minute drive from Netanya, where there's 250,000 Israelis living. If someone wants to think that this is not a risk, then just think how we were thinking 26, 27 months ago and the years before that. This is a critical risk that needs to be discussed. Now, is it really a risk or not? And the truth is it is, because I sat where the civilian guard team and I asked, is this real or not? And they said that 25 to 100 individuals jump the fence. Not every year, not every month, not every week. Every day, there is 25 to 100 individuals who jump the border and go work in Israel. What is work today, what are networks today to cross that border, are terror networks in the future. Now, we work with the civilian guard teams, and this is where we hope everyone here will find ways to be involved, whether it's with our organization or others, is that there's real-time surveillance systems that are needed, cameras, sensors that give advance warning, and that is what saved communities on 10/7, and that is where there is a massive gap in central Israel. And when you're driving on Highway 6, you want to know that you're safe. And when you're sitting in Netanya, you want to know that the first line of defense is well situated. The last is providing the equipment and training they need. Today, these individuals receive 4 training days a year, and we're working to increase that with the government and as a nonprofit. So we firmly believe it is our responsibility to protect our people and communities, to attack the silent epidemic that is crushing our country, and to defend our communities with preventative and secure systems. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a survivor of the October 7th attack. On that awful morning, Erez Yatzkan, a father and husband from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, was fighting to save his family when the terrorists invaded their home. He was severely wounded, but thankfully managed to survive in the most inspiring way, and is here to share his story.
After 6 in the morning, we woke up by the alarm of the Iron Dome. I was with my wife and my daughter inside the safe room, and then after a few minutes, we start hearing Arabic shouting outside of our home, and we immediately understood that we are in a totally different story now. I was holding the handle in the lock position and knew that this is my fight for surviving. If I will let them in, they will kill us. They trying to open the door, and when they failed to do it, they put some massive explosive on the door. I was falling on the floor, my hands were damaged. Luckily, the door kept locked. They were shooting through us. I was on the floor and my wife and my daughter were in the corner, so they couldn't get hurt by the bullets, and we were quiet. So after a few minutes, they left. This is something that I was never ever imagined that terrorists could come to my home. We were sure that the army will come in a few minutes, but nothing happened. My wife and my daughter were focusing how to save me. They were sending a lot of messages to everyone that they could. I remember I was asking my daughter to put something to stop the bleeding. The only thing that she could take is the wire of the charger of the mobile phone. And it took 2 hours till we hear some noise outside of home. It was a few soldiers fighting with the terrorists. The only thing that they could do, throwing to us a kit to hold the blood. They asked some medical care to get inside and help me to put it on the end, and he stayed with us. They contact some of the doctors from Hadassah Hospital, and they told my wife she need to bring me some sugar and water. So she jumped out of the window. She was not bothering if there is terrorists or not, and this is what I was drinking, trying to stay awake. I felt that I'm losing power. I understood that I will not survive. After 4 hours, we hear another unit from the army. My daughter jumped on them from the window and I said, please rescue my father, he's dying. And they took me to another house in the neighborhood where there is a paramedic. After a few minutes, one of the soldier commander, he got wounded and then decided to rescue us. So they brought some minivan, and also they asked my wife to join us to show us the way out of the kibbutz. We start driving, maybe 300 meters, we were attacked by terrorists. Fortunately, 2 soldiers that were killed. Luckily, the driver was not wounded, also my wife, and he just pushed the gas pedal and we managed to go out. We were outside of the kibbutz, and I understood that I'm not in the better position. There was too many people wounded, too many people killed. Luckily, they contacted a helicopter. The helicopter took me and the other wounded people. At that time, I felt that I was safe. But as soon as I was landing here in the Sheba hospital, I was losing my consciousness. First thing I remember, I was waking up, I wasn't sure where am I. It took me a few minutes to understand that I have 2 ways in front of me. One is the easy way, start feeling sorry for myself. The other way was the most difficult way, is start the journey of recovery. I choose this way because I have this wonderful platform that Sheba provided me that involves a lot of love and support from the doctors around me and the nurses, and they give me this hope and help me to achieve this goal. I had till now 9 surgeries, and every surgery brings you back. And part of this journey was also in the rehabilitation department. They taught me and showed me how to start moving my hand. There's a lot of pain involved, but here in Sheba it's amazing what they provide you. Working with clay, it gives me some power, mostly mentally than physically. This hydrotherapy is wonderful. So there's a big platform that Sheba provide me that helped me and start preparing myself to the life after. And I never felt sorry for myself, mostly because of the good energy that I got from the surrounding team that was around me. I was lucky that I have Dr. Steinberg that gave me the best medical equipment to rescue my hands. I remember Dr. Steinberg asking, how are you feeling? I said, we are running forward. I said, we will run forward. He was really serious about it. In that time, I was barely walking. 2 months later, he reminded me, the day arrived, we're going to run, and we're going to run it in Kfar Aza. All the nurses and doctors from the department came to the kibbutz, and we were running 5 kilometers. For me, it was a big, big victory. I reached the age of 40, I started playing saxophone and riding Harley Davidson. Remember, I was sharing this with my doctors, and they told me, Erez, when we will do our best to keep 10 fingers functioning, you will be able to ride Harley Davidson, you will be able to play again the saxophone. This is my next goal. If I'm looking backward on the journey that I was doing, first of all, I'm feeling proud of myself, I must say. It was not easy. This journey is built from small victories, day by day. This is the only way to succeed.
Thank you. Wow, I can't believe that I survived. Actually, I tell this story, I already told this story 100 times, and every time I ask myself, how did I survive this terrifying day? It must be an end of God that sent all those miracles that you just saw, that keep me alive. The door that was not open after the explosive, my family that took care of me, the soldier that rescued me, and the helicopter that took me to Sheba. And Sheba is one of the miracles that I was facing, because the helicopter could take me to every other good hospitals in Israel, and there are good hospitals in Israel. But I remember that I opened my eyes, as you saw in the movie, and I have to choose the easy way down or take the hard way up. I choose the hard way of recovery. It's not easy, but it's the only way. And the only way to achieve it was with small victory, and Sheba, as a hospital, provide me these strengths and those small victories that I could manage, because being in a hospital is not easy. You lose all your, you become depend on others, on doctors, and the department of end surgery is a part of the Sheba. Give me those miracles. You saw the way that they ran with me in the kibbutz Kfar Aza, in the same place that 64 people were murdered few months before. I was running, and for me it was a big, big victory. Every day that I was there, they taught me as part of the orthopedic division. They taught me how to start learning, close the button of the shirt, making food again, cleaning the house. This is my wife loved it. They taught me that, and becoming a human again. And this is something that I'm not wishing anyone of you to get to the position that you are in the darkness, like I was, with a lot of pain. And the only way up is looking for small victories day by day. This is the only way out. Second thing that I want to say is that hopefully you will get the same hospital that I was, and the support that I got from the doctors that give me this strength. And there are still in Israel a lot of soldiers wounded, and civilians. Some of them are still in Sheba Hospital, and they give me the platform. I'm sure that Sheba needs the support also to give the rest of us, the rest that are still there. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share my story. And And for the ones of you who question about where I'm gonna be in a few years, I'm planning to come back to kibbutz Kfar Aza, to the place I used to live, because this is the only way of victory. The only way is coming back to the same place that we used to live before. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have an incredible panel to discuss the political vision of the right in what pertains to both Israel and the United States. To moderate this conversation, I would like to invite to the stage Eliana Passenstein, the International Desk Director of the Binyamin Regional Council, and she will be joined by Israel Gantz, who serves as the Binyamin Region Governor and Yesha Council Chairman, as well as Mr. Simon Falik, one of the most dedicated champions of Israel and the Jewish people. His family's deep commitment to the Jewish people, Jewish causes, and support for the state of Israel has made an extraordinary impact both here and also home in Israel.
Standing here in ancient Shiloh, Israel's first capital city for 369 years. Before Jerusalem, this was the place of the Mishkan. And I've been giving tours here for as long as I can remember. But there was nowhere to stop with the group when it was raining, and there wasn't very much to show them. One family from Miami made such a huge change here in Shiloh. They brought this site back to life. Before we had this beautiful tower with the movie and the museum, we had about 15,000 visitors a year. Within 5 years, that grew to 150,000 visitors, and more are coming. The ancient site of Shiloh, Israel's first capital, has come back to life because of one family. This building has become a landmark. The Falik family, as a family, this is their shlichut, this is their mission. They didn't just give a donation, they are part of everything we're doing here. They're part of the Binyamin region, they're part of the Shiloh tourism, they're part of bringing people back to their roots, back to Eretz Israel. And that is what's so special about the Falik family.
What you see today around us is a miracle. One day a family came to visit us. They were from Miami. And we thought, okay, this is interesting, but we were too young to explain what we want, to ask for something. And I think that what they brought with them was a very new wind and power to understand how far we can go with our idea. Everybody has ideas. Sometimes what you need is like the support of people that are really connected to the earth and to the real world, and they know how to do it. And we were very lucky. We met the Faliks. I think it's the best thing that happened to us as a family, but I think that the impact of what happened to Binyamin and to the area and to Psagot Winery is a very major story. This is what we need today in Binyamin. You need new blood in order to be strong and sustainable. And the changes here are so quick. We respond so fast to changes and to new blood. Little things can make a huge change here. Psagot Winery today is big. It's very young, but it's very powerful. And this is thanks to people that believed that we can do it. We believed in the same ideas. The key is always the friendship and the real connections and the love that we have to each other, which is a gift, a huge gift to all of us. So thank you.
We don't thank you enough, but every day we think of you. I'm standing here, the place of Hannah's prayer, the birthplace of prayer. Because of you, we are able to bring people from all over the world to stand together, to pray together, to unite as one people. And that is something that is so special and makes the biggest difference you can imagine.
What we see here is the impact of real visionaries. The Falik family, a family of believers. They came here, they saw the importance of the area, they saw the needs, and they saw the potential. They sparked the wave of growth and success, and they made a history here in Binyamin, in Judea and Samaria. Today in Binyamin, we are moving forward. The communities are growing. New projects are being built. The opportunities are stronger than ever, and it's just the beginning. Today, everyone can be a spark and be a partner in developing the heart of the heartland and be a part of the growth of Binyamin.
Was that special? To your father and to... We've been through so much together. Everybody here has had a glass of psagot wine at least once in their life, right? Okay. So thank you. This is a really special opportunity to be here with you, Simon, to be here with your governor, Israel Gantz, in Miami. We always meet each other in Israel, and you're always bringing groups. And before I ask you the first question, I want to tell you a story. We first met when I was a young mother, raising my children at home and giving an occasional tour in the region. And a friend of mine, two friends, one Yechia Leiter, the other Lior Stuhl, call me up and they say, we're bringing this family from Miami to the Binyamin region. There wasn't very much to see then. He said, so where do you take people on your tours? I said, there's this guy named Yaakov on the hilltop. They have this really great garage winery. They don't even have a bathroom, so there's nowhere to really tour there, but it's a great story, a young couple living in a train car. You have to take them there. So I want to ask you, Simon, when you and Chana, and I know that Shmulik was a little boy, you go up to meet this young couple on a hilltop in Psagot, living in a train car. What were you thinking? When you saw them, what made you decide to invest in this young couple's winery so many years ago?
So we as a family, we always thought how to bring people to Judea and Samaria. And the only way to bring people is through tourism or give them some type of an experience. But you need to have an activity. When we met Yaakov and Naama, we thought that wine is a great reason to bring people, all kinds of people from all walks of life, right, left, intellectuals, people who seek a different adventure. All these people, everybody loves wine. We thought it was a good idea, and we connected with Yaakov and Naama. We never dreamed that it would be thank God, the success that it is. But we're very, very, very happy and very proud to be partners with them.
Thank you. Israel, there are many beautiful wineries in Binyamin and all throughout Judea and Samaria, and you as the chairman of the Yesha Council, you travel all over Yehuda and Shomron. But what does Psagot Winery mean to you? Is it just another one of the wineries, one of the beautiful and meaningful biblical heartland wine, or is this something special?
So today, Psagot Winery became the beautiful front of Binyamin. Everyone that comes to Binyamin go through the winery. And exactly as Simon said, you can call people to come, you can encourage people, say, we have a good staff. They have many questions, but when they drink wine, they forget their opinions. They can be right or left. All the questions fall when they drink wine, and it builds a bridge between people. You can come on Friday. I think we met on a Friday a month ago in Psagot. You can see a huge line of people waiting to buy some coffee. This is how a change looks like. Instead of pushing people, trying to bring them and force them to come, you can suggest them something different, something unique, something very professional, very high quality, and they enjoy. And I think this method, I think this is the change that the Felix did in Binyamin. Instead of pushing, make it different. That's what he did.
I can say that as the international desk direction for the Binyamin Regional Council, we host delegations. We try and bring people into the region, and we've been trying for years to get people to tour Judea and Samaria. Now, the first winery you built, there were about 5,000 visitors a year. And this new winery, the most sought-after wedding venue in Israel, the most beautiful wedding venue, because people are invited to weddings and bar mitzvah and a bris, there are about 5,000 visitors a week. That is such a huge change. It's really unbelievable. So this brings me to my next question. Simon, just last Friday, I'm sure you were following, we hosted 1,140 evangelical leaders with Mike Evans at Shiloh. And I know that you guys have a personal story here, but what inspired you to build a spaceship on top of an ancient archaeological tell?
So we were first introduced to Shiloh. I went with my father, Zichron V'cha, with Yechia Leiter, who's now the ambassador to the U.S. We went there, I didn't know anything about Shiloh. It was the first time we went there, and he told me about the potential of Shiloh. I also learned a lot more about Shiloh, the history, and about Hannah and Shmuel Hanavi. And I told him all these archaeological sites are interesting, but again, we need to build something, some tourist type of attraction, something that people will come and attract them. And I didn't have anything to do with the spaceship look. I didn't have anything to do with the design. We just partnered. Yechiel told us that he'll get funding from the government, but we need the initial funding to do it. So we, as a family, we funded a lot of the original archaeological digs, and then there was a proposal a matching proposal that we have to put a certain amount of money, and the government will match, and that's how that came about. I really didn't have much to do with the spaceship design or the movie or anything like that. I just wanted a place for people to have an experience, to come and have an experience above not only visiting another, which is a very important archaeological site, but to have something different.
Thank you. Israel, just this past year, you hosted Ambassador Mike Huckabee on his first week in Israel, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, numerous members of Congress, and just last Friday, over 1,000 evangelical leaders. How did you succeed in turning Shiloh into a place that has influence on an international level?
So we used to work a lot in Congress and Senate in of course, United States, but many states in the world. And we figured out that any time that you can hide your roots and you can speak about security issues, strategic issues like water, whatever, people don't understand what you're doing there. But when you bring people to see your roots, to see the footsteps of your forefathers, to see the biblical stories, the prophecy coming alive, it's changed their mind. You know, before the Phallics arrived, ancient Shiloh was ancient, like covered, nothing to see. You can walk there and you couldn't understand what do you see. Today, even the government sent people. The delegation you spoke about was sponsored by the Foreign Affairs Ministry in the state of Israel, because they understand today that if you want to convince people to support and strengthen the state of Israel, they have to understand what are we doing there. And there is our roots. We began there in Shiloh, in Jerusalem, in the city of David. It's our roots. And after the Phallics opens the windows that everyone can come and see our history, I think it's the best explanation for the state of Israel. And we saw what happened last Friday. And I think this is the most strategic thing. Raise our head and say, Israel, or say Jews belong in Judea, the state of Israel belong to the people of Israel. And thanks to the Phallics, we can do that.
Thank you. You all know this, and Tila knows this, and Hannah. Every week I tell Hannah's story about Shmulik and Tila with Eliana, and this just coming to watch the movie, to take part in archaeological excavations, to visit the site has such a huge impact. And I just staying at home in Shiloh and in Eli, I've met so many people that I walk in the halls in Congress, people recognize me, they say, hey, she's from Shiloh. And I'll tell you a funny story that I told Mike Huckabee. When it was decided that he is going to be the ambassador for Israel, there were a lot of Democrats that didn't like that idea, and they did everything to stop his appointment to be brought in as the ambassador of the United States in Israel. And during the Senate hearing, it was 8:30 p.m. one night, I'm folding laundry at home with my kids. I get a phone call. Is this Eliana? We understand that you live near Shiloh. I'm calling from the State Department. The Senate hearing for Mike Huckabee is going on right now, and we wanted to know if you could go pray in Shiloh. I said, well, it's 8:30 p.m. and I have a big load of laundry to fold, but yeah, I'm happy to go right outside because my house is overlooking Shiloh. And they said, well, you should listen to and I'm listening to all the yays and the nays, and I'm praying for Mike Huckabee. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is all, I want you to know, Hannah and Shmulik and Tila, and I don't know who else is here, but this is all in your zchut, that this has become a landmark a place of prayer. People come from all over. I have members of Congress that text me and they say, can you pray for this bill? Can you pray for that bill? We do this all the time, and that's because you guys have made such a huge difference. So I'm looking at the clock, and I just like you guys, just closing remarks. You're an inspiration, and hopefully to everyone in this room, everyone here can make a difference. Just come. It can be an investment. It can be a donation. It could be connecting people. If you would like to just say one last sentence of what this means to you and your family, this whole involvement.
So this is great that we have this conference here now in Miami, Besheva, and I know we're talking to people who agree with us and support everybody here, all the work that you do. But I'd also like to talk to the Jewish community that doesn't agree and doesn't go to places like Shiloh. I just had a conversation with someone, a very prominent family and a group from Miami is going to Israel in the next few weeks. And I asked them to visit a few places, and they say they don't, as a policy, they don't cross the green line. And these are very active Jews, Zionists. They won't cross the green line. My first response always, if you don't cross the green line, at least be consistent. Don't go to the Kotel, because we didn't have that. That's post-67 also. But we see our Christian friends, we see the Christian friends coming. More and more Jews are coming out to Shiloh, to Psagot, to visit those areas. But if there's anything that I can ask of everyone here, is when you go to Israel or go visit, if you haven't been there and if you have been there, encourage people in our community. You know, everybody says, fight anti-Semitism, what does fight anti-Semitism? Fight anti-Semitism is, it's a difficult fight. Billions of dollars have been spent on anti-Semitism, to fight anti-Semitism, not very successful. I think we, as Jews, we need to move forward, do what we think is right, whether it's developing more communities, building more communities in Israel, all over Israel, in Yehuda v'Shomron and everywhere, building synagogues, building mikvahs, investing in businesses. We need to show that we're proud, that we're not afraid. There's a BDS movement, and I can tell you Psagot was one of the symbols of BDS. Psagot was one of the symbols of BDS, and there's a BDS movement only on Israeli products. No one's boycotting. There aren't any other boycott movements on any other country or any other products. But there's a boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. It started with products in Yehuda v'Shomron, but now it's all on Israeli products. So we have to, when we say fight anti-Semitism, we need to be proud. And the way they try to boycott our products, and we buy more of our own products and grow our businesses and encourage people to invest and to grow their businesses, we should also boycott them. Let's boycott the actors. There's after October 7th, many prominent Jews woke up. They stopped giving money to universities that are fermenting anti-Semitism in the universities. Some prominent Jews also, I don't want to name names, but some prominent Jews also reached out to very big law firms and said, don't hire these people who are demonstrating, and that's why many of them put masks on. But fighting anti-Semitism means we need to fight. The same way they come after us, we need to come after them. In the boycott them. Don't go to the movies. They write. Someone told me just now they wrote a letter. 200 actors. Who cares? They don't even know what they're signing. Most of them to release a terrorist like Barghouti. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. Anybody who puts their name on something like that. Anyhow, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Continue what you're doing. We hope to see. I'm sure everyone here has been, but whoever has not been in Yehuda v'Shomron, not only Psagot, Shiloh, Gush Etzion, Hebron, Ma'arat HaMachpelah. These are all places. This is our ancestral heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Israel?
I think that what we see is that Falik's family made in Judea and Samaria. We have here Savta Nili, Simon Hannah, their children, Tila, and her brother and sister, and their children. Yeah, Shmuel here. We remember his bar mitzvah and mitzvat giyus. I think what they made, it's not less than a revolution. 20 years ago, no one came. Today, it's very easy to speak about come, visit. 20 years ago, no one came, and of course, no one wanted to invest money. No one wanted. I think not many people believed that there is a chance to change the situation. Simon, what you did, it's a revolution, and today, I feel that it's a breakthrough moment. Everything is under construction. The communities, we expand the communities, we can building, we can expanding the road and whatever. And I call everyone to join to this revolution that you started to make Judea and Samaria great again. This is a first place to be great. Yeah. And of course, the state of Israel will be great again.
Thank you very much to both of you. But just before we finish, Shmolik, Tila, Chana, everyone up here, we have something special to give to the family. סבתא נילי.
דודו ודודי, אתם גם יכולים, מרשים לכם. בואו, נו. Okay, Dudu and Dudi.
Okay, so this is something we should have presented you guys with long ago. You that? Is everybody up here from the family? Dudu, Dudi? So what we have here for you is something we should have given you long ago. You've always been part of the Binyamin region with the revolution you've made in Sagoden and Shiloh. So we are offering to the Falik family honorary citizens, honoring the Falik family. You are now honorary citizens of the Binyamin region for your boundless heart, visionary spirit, for connecting people worldwide to the biblical heartland of Israel. From Israel Gantz. And what we have here is a replica of the coin that they found in Psagot for the freedom of Zion and in Shiloh. Second year for the great revolt of the Jews against the Romans, the year 67, which is very significant. On one hand is the wolf, on one side is the wolf, which is the symbol of Shevet Binyamin, because wolves are always in packs, and we are a community. You're in Miami and in Yerushalayim and in Israel and in Binyamin, and together we are a pack, together we are a community, together we are a family. So thank you very, very much.
Okay. It is now my pleasure to invite Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Amichai Shikli, who is responsible for strengthening global Jewish communities and their connection to the State of Israel. He previously served as a member of Knesset, where he focused on national security, Jewish identity, and international relations. Please welcome Minister Shikli. Minister Shikli, it's our pleasure to have you here today with us. You've been in the U.S. for about a week now, I suppose, and I think you're the busiest person in Miami, in Florida. I was trying to get a hold of you and your team, and it's non-stop activity for you. What have you been doing?
So, yes, it was a very busy week, Baruch Hashem, and we've started in New York, where we had a major meeting with Rabbi Amiel Hirsch, and a lot of rabbis who are coming from the more liberal parts of Judaism. I think Rabbi Hirsch is actually doing a revolution by trying to take the reform movement to a Zionist approach. And after October 7th, there is a chance to see a change in the liberal streams of Zionism and to bring them to be more close to Israel, to be more close to Judaism. And we are trying to assist Amiel Hirsch in this important mission. This was item number one. Second was meeting with Pam Bondi, Leo Tarel, Harmeet Dillon, the entire team. We need to say loud and clear, this administration has done more to combat anti-Semitism than any other administration in the history of the US. They are doing incredible things, going against the universities who failed to secure the safety of their Jewish students. We don't see the incumbents today as we saw during the war. We see deportations of radical Islamists, supporters of Hamas, and the next stage is to collaborate, and that was on the agenda, to collaborate against the threat that is coming from the Muslim Brotherhood all across the US, and this is a leading force when it comes to anti-Semitism, organizations like CARE, AMP, SJP, so that is a mutual interest. Third, which I think is maybe the headline, my greatest concern when it comes to the Jewry of America, and the Jewry of America, of North America, the largest Jewish community outside of Israel, is the Jewish kids that don't get Jewish education. Only 5% of the non-Orthodox kids goes to Jewish day school. This is nothing. And this is a threat to the continuity of the Jewish people. This is a big issue. And after a pilot that we have done during the war, we had a very limited budget. We have decided to double by 10 the amount and to allocate 50 million shekels for Jewish education in North America. This is, I think, the largest amount that was allocated by any Israeli government in the history of the State of Israel to make sure that we have future generation to have Jewish education. So that is, in a nutshell, the week that we have had, and obviously this beautiful Shabbat with this huge community here in Miami. I want to thank the Falik family for the hospitality. ובאמת, תודה רבה.
Well, that's definitely the headline. You mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, and we're now at this moment of time where the most intense physical fighting in the war is probably over, at least for now. Yet many people in the West still they don't fully grasp what we dealt with, what we're dealing with, the nature of this conflict, the nature of our enemies, if it's Iran, the Muslim Brotherhood, their backers, and the ideological and religious aspects of this conflict. So from your perspective, I wanted to ask you, what's the most effective way to address this gap in understanding? I know you have a distinct approach of how to deal with this issue.
Yeah, so first and foremost, my greatest concern is that, unfortunately, at the same time that our allies here in the US are banning Muslim Brotherhood here in America, there's collaboration with the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide, meaning with Erdogan's Turkey, with Jolani's Syria, and obviously with Qatar. Qatar today is the capital of the Muslim Brotherhood. They are leading the PR war of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are very effective, unfortunately. It's not a coincidence that they had now in Doha, Tucker Carlson is one of their main guests at this conference. There's a very intense effort by the Qataris to split MAGA and to conquer the hearts and minds of the conservative movement in America to become more aligned with Islamism. We are seeing Tucker saying that Hamas is not a terror organization, but a political movement. There's nothing wrong with Sharia law, etc., etc. That is regarding to Qatar. Qatar is whitewashing Jolani. Jolani, the founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, a massacre of the Alawite, massacre of the Druze, now a great threat for the Kurds in northern Syria. And you see at the same conference in Doha, Christiane Amanpour from CNN, who is bashing Israel and demonizing Israel 24/7, and she's sitting with this jihadist, and she didn't even mention the word Alawites. She didn't even mention the term Druze or the Kurds, and you can see the hypocrisy of CNN, of people like Christiane Amanpour. But when it's Christiane Amanpour, this is one thing. We have a major issues not with Christiane Amanpour. The last is Erdogan. Turkey is divided. The entire opposition is in prison. Mayors, journalists, heads of opposition. Erdogan is one of the most prominent leaders of Muslim Brotherhood worldwide. Together with Syria, they are the number one threat for the state of Israel in the coming years. And I hope that our allies in the US will understand that to form an alliance with these Muslim Brotherhood jihadists, even if they have suits, that's not a good idea.
What you're talking about is pretty overlooked sometimes if you follow just mainstream media. Well, I can tell you that personally, one development that genuinely surprised me after October 7th was the rise of what some people call the woke right, those voices on the American right, like Tucker Carlson, for example, whose entire set of beliefs doesn't really align with their perspectives on Israel and the war and Israel's enemies. They're always tough on border security, tough on crime, but suddenly when the worst criminals in the world cross a sovereign state's border to butcher civilians, they somehow side with them and not with Israel. So I'm curious, how do you interpret this phenomenon, and what kind of danger does it actually pose? Can we deal with it somehow?
First, I think that is the greatest danger for the future of America, for the future of Israel, for the future of Western civilization. Tucker has sold his soul to the devil. This is like the movie and the book, Lord of the Rings. What is the ring? Ring is power for the sake of power. Power for the sake of power. He used to be a conservative. He used to speak, and I was actually, I think, the only show I ever watched, but not by chance, but I was going to watch, was the show of Tucker Carlson on Fox News. He spoke about the values of family, of faith, of nationalism, and I actually quite liked him. But it seems that due to financial interest, he shifted his ideology. And we need to understand what happened with Tucker in the past 2 years. It started with bringing people like Daryl Cooper, a Holocaust denier who claimed that the Nazis basically mercy the Jews in Eastern Europe. They didn't want them to starve, so they just shoot them. That is one of the most crazy Holocaust denial I've witnessed on a platform of millions of people. That's Daryl Cooper. He attacks us on the religion aspect, saying that Christianity and Zionism cannot work together. This is a complete lie, because the Bible is the foundation for Judaism and for Christianity, and the biblical values are the ones that needs to be empowered. And I think, and I'll jump to the strategy, the most important thing for us, for the Jewish community, for the state of Israel, is to form alliances with both Christians, evangelical Christians, Mormon Christians. We have shared values. The shared values are freedom. The shared values is the sacred of life. These values that are based upon the Bible are what unite also not just the Christian world and the Jewish world, but also the US, which was founded on the same a set of principles and values. And also on the worldwide, we need to collaborate with conservative parties that share the views that we have.
Thank you for this. I want to ask you a bit about Israel. Like the US, the Israeli society is very much polarized at this point. We've seen it before the war, we've seen it throughout the war. And sometimes, just like here in America, it's in an unhealthy manner. Israelis are also experiencing some of the very similar trends that we're seeing playing out here in America. If it's distrust in state institutions, in mainstream media, for example, and so forth, global governance structures. So what would you say to people who care so deeply about Israel but are unsure as for how to read these social shifts, so changing dynamics within Israel? What would you say to them?
First, I think that after October 7th, it's unfortunate that we needed October 7th for that, but the situation is far better than previous to the war. What we have now in Israel is a process of elite replacement. There is a shift in the elite. It used to be secular, Ashkenazi, progressive before there was socialist elite. And today, the public generally is more traditional, is leaning more to the right. And you can see, by the way, through the new appointments for the head of the Shin Bet, David Zini, not with a tiny little kippah, but a true religious leader and commander from the IDF, who was, by the way, blocked in the IDF. But he was appointed to be the head of the Shirut, Baruch Hashem. And second is Roman Goffman. Roman Goffman, Ole Hadash from Ashdod, who made it to be the head of the Mossad. And I'm excited because what we are seeing is that what Avishai Ben Chaim called the Israel HaShniya, the second Israel, that was not part of these the leading forces of society. Now they are the one that leads society. And for the old elite, this is a trauma, and they are frightening. I don't think that they should be terrified because we don't hate them. And this is a natural process, a natural change. And I think this is for the best, and we should be happy
Embrace
about it. Embracing that, yes.
So it's obviously difficult to ask someone to predict the outcome of Israeli elections. We're heading into an election year, so I won't...
Right-wing government, 100%.
Really?
100%.
I was about to ask you just how to read the current polls and just your perspective and headlines coming out of Israel, out of respect for those here trying to get a better understanding.
I think that the public is tired from the anti-Bibi sentiment. The public is tired from banning the largest political movement in Israel, which is the Likud. People are tired of that. That's one thing. And I think that there will be new forces will emerge that will forget about this philosophy, which is ridiculous and creating a lot of harm. And the second thing, people are also tired for some of the practices of the Haredi parties who disappointed us in their leadership. We want them to be much more connected. We want them to be much more in favor of bringing their kids to the army. And we want them to act, if they're in the government, not just as a sector who needs to take care of themselves, but to understand they are no longer a minority. And we need them to be an integral part of society. And to be an integral part of society, it means to share the military service generally, and to take care of everyone, and not just מה שנקרא עניי עירך.
Thank you so much for these important words. Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Amichai Shikli.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה. And now I would like to call back to the stage two ladies who have been on the stage before throughout the day.
First, Eliana Pazenstein, the International Desk Director of the Benjamin Regional Council. And Eliana will next moderate the next panel with Tila Falik and Gloria Garces, the president of Nonagon Global, to discuss the crucial connection that the minister just spoke of between evangelicals and the state of Israel.
Standing here in ancient Shiloh, Israel's first capital city for 369 years, before
Welcome to Shiloh. We've been guarding this place for 3,000 years, and now that you're here, enjoy. Sniff the air of thousands of years ago, and take some with you back to your home.
We're here in Shiloh, and we love you, we pray for you, we stand with you. The policy of the God who birthed America, and the policy of the God who gave these people this land, that Judea and Samaria is Bible land. Any Christian of the Bible stories come out of Judea and Samaria. And here in Shiloh, this was the capital of Israel. If you can look around, you'll see the American flag and the Israel flag. We stand with the God of Israel.
Now, today, we stand together, united for a prayer of thanksgiving.
There is no stronger ally, friend of the state of Israel than the United States of America.
Here in Shiloh, Joshua and Caleb were the led the people of Israel to conquer the land of Israel. Here, when you see lives the prophet Samuel, the child that burned from a prayer of a mother, that the prayer was answered. From here we know the eternity of Israel is not an idea. It's a divine promise, coming alive just before our own eyes.
So welcome. This is just a taste of what we had in Shiloh on Friday, and I thought you'd appreciate this especially. So we have a few minutes here to speak, and I'd like us to all feel comfortable. We have so much to share, I think, with each other, and so much to discuss about the connection between the Christian community and Israel and the importance. But I want to ask you, Gloria, you've built strategic alliances and equipped Spanish language journalists across Latin America to cover Israel and Middle Eastern issues. How has media shaped Christian and Jewish support for Israel, and what role do you see in playing it going forward?
Well, it's very interesting because for many years we've been involved, as many of you know, I'm a Christian, but I'm very, very involved within the Jewish community. And not only do I serve in different boards, but, I call many of you friends. And I have a hard time, even when Tila and I were talking a little bit about what we were going to discuss, saying we, because sometimes I feel like this is my community as well as the Christian community. And as a journalist as well, I have been placed in many different groups that intersect and that are key for the advancement of the cause of Israel. Speaking to the media, if we're talking to what we call secular media versus Christian media, it's a completely different conversation. And there, as the minister was saying, we have huge challenges, right? And in the Christian media, the largest challenge that I see is that many Christians say, yes, we stand with Israel, but they don't know how. They don't know what to do. They don't know practical ways to stand with Israel. And one of the interesting things this year, last year we did it again, and I have a friend in the audience who was part of a panel in the National Association of Christian Journalists, Christian Hispanic journalists in Latin America and the US, and we had a panel for Israel, and we literally were teaching them how to cover Israel properly and how that is key for them to really understand the region, for them to truly understand what is going on. And then this year, I had an interesting panel, and that's why I'm going a little bit into it, because it was a round table where the title of the round table was, Israel is still the David of the story, right? Because they're trying to paint Israel as the Goliath, the oppressor, the bad one, the colonizer, whatever. And in that round table, I had a lot of aha moments, because I started teaching them what I think it's very basic things, like the population of Israel. And they all went, oh, is that little? And I go, I mean, you guys are journalists. There's so much that still needs to be learned. So I think in the terms of the conversation and what all of you can do in your communities in reaching out to the Christian community, and especially with journalists and with people who have media outlets, is to try to educate. Not only is it connecting, I always say it's a three-pronged thing. Connect, educate, activate. So we cannot activate until we educate, and we cannot educate if we don't connect. So the very first thing is we need to connect.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Tila, you brought numerous groups to ancient Shiloh, to Judea and Samaria, to the biblical heartland, to experience it firsthand. And in your view, what can the Christian community do today to deepen its support for Israel?
So I think that by bringing people to Israel is educating, connecting, and activating. Yes. Many times when people say, what can I do for Israel? I tell them, just go. Go to Israel. Talk to the people in the street. Get in a taxi cab and have a conversation with the driver. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what your politics are, what your history is. When you go to Israel, there is something for everyone. And whether people are being educated, connected, or activated through food, through music, through religion, or through history, there is something for everyone in this tiny little place that belongs to everyone in the world. And what people don't realize is that for many years, maybe Jews have a bit of PTSD from the hate that we received from the Christians, from the Catholics, from the oppression in other countries. Because in Europe, church and state came together, and the church was very powerful in the message that they were giving and the oppression that it caused, and if not the bloodshed that it caused to the Jewish communities. But in a place like America, where church and state is different, yes, we're one nation under God, but we all have the same God and a different way to worship God. So that is what's different in America with the Christians that want to support the Jewish community and want to support Israel. And in Israel, people don't understand it because it's never been like that. So it's almost like they're shocked that, oh my God, there's actually people that are not Jewish and support Israel and like us. And the answer is yes, there are, and there are millions. And it's very important to engage in those relationships and to invest in those relationships, because if somebody wants to be your friend, there's enough people out there that hate the Jewish people. There's enough people out there that hate Israel, but it's probably because they hate what the Judeo-Christian values stand for, which is God and a deeper belief that there's something above, and to have to live in a moral and in a just way. And if they have a problem with that lifestyle, which the extreme radical Islamists do, they don't have a problem specifically with Jews. They have a problem with the way that we worship God, with truth and with kindness and celebrating life. And that is something that we connect with the Christian community. And we have to celebrate that connection and bring people to Israel to be able to show them how important it is and how valuable the relationship is.
I can add a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just going to add what Tila was saying because she touched on 2 points that I think are extremely key. Number one, I want to stand as a representation of Christians in general and say, forgive us. Forgive us for that history. Forgive us for that heritage and that part of our relationship that causes and still causes you to be fearful of us.
I forgive you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I don't say it just to say it. I say it truly. Just like when I was a teenager and I found out my parents are Cuban and I found out that Cuba is the one that rejected, the boat and sent it away, I became obsessed with getting Christian pastors to apologize on behalf of Cuba so that God would forgive Cuba for what they did. So I want to apologize for that. But second, I do want to reiterate on the friendship. If anything, October 7th taught us is that Israel needs friends, right? We need all the friends we have. I said we, right? Israel, we need friends. But we need to not only keep the friends we have, if we can, we need to make new ones, but we need to really strengthening those ties. We cannot take it for granted. For many, many years, after Christians changed their posture on Israel and the Jewish people in general, it's been Christians that have been crossing the street. We are the ones that have been approaching, and what can we do for you, and how can we show you our love, and how can we be involved, and how can we donate? And I think now it's time that it's also you guys who reach out to Christians and say, how can we strengthen our ties? So let's now take a stand, an active, intentional stand to say, I will also stand with you, just as you have stood with me.
I want to add to that. I recently had a conversation with an elected official, a senator, and he said, don't you think it's interesting that the senators and the congressmen that support Israel do not come from predominantly Jewish states? And that shows you that now Florida is predominantly a red state and pro-Israel, but it wasn't always. And New York, where there are so many Jews living there, is not necessarily supportive of Israel. So if you look at Middle America and you look at Ohio and Kansas and Milwaukee and all these places where you don't have a predominantly Jewish community, their elected officials are standing with Israel. And that's because they are representing our Christian allies and our Christian friends. And that's very important to notice because we not only have to support our Christian friendships, but also those elected officials that are supportive of Israel.
All right.
So I just have one last question for you, Gloria. As the international desk director for my region, I've reached out to ambassadors all over Israel, saying, please come on a tour, come meet us, come speak with us. And not only will they not come, it's hard to even meet with them in Tel Aviv. And you played a huge role in moving the embassy of Guatemala to Jerusalem, which is our eternal capital. And it should, it should be there. You shouldn't have to work so hard to make that. First of all, I want to thank you for that. But I want to ask you, what can we do to get the rest of the embassies to be situated in the capital of the state of Israel?
So it's interesting because after we moved, we're catalyst behind getting the president of Guatemala to make that decision to move Guatemala's embassy to Jerusalem. We started a coalition to then try to help other countries, at least in Latin America, to do the same. And we were involved with the Honduras one, and we were involved with several other ones. I went to visit other presidents that I cannot say yet, but who have promised that maybe they'll do the same. But I think the best thing that you guys can do is utilize us. Utilize your allies, your Christian allies in those countries, and have those Christian big organizations talk to their ambassadors, talk to the embassies, talk to their foreign ministries, and say, hey, we want this to be a priority. So when you see Christians as true friends that really don't want anything other than we just want to be friends, let's hang out, we can also be mobilized. And I think if you start talking to those organizations, you will see how they say yes. I'm the type of person that I will never, it's very hard for elected officials and diplomats to tell me no, just because I'm really, really intense. And I think one of the things the stance that I take is, if I cannot go straight, then I'm going to find a roundabout way to do it. That's how we did Guatemala. The whole process of how we got the president of Guatemala to say yes was we bombarded him from every angle. We actually had meetings with over 500 Christian leaders and community leaders in the city, not only to help him kind of get to his ear, but also when he said yes, that he would feel the support of the community online and in presence. And then we even did a trip to Guatemala to thank him, which, you know, the Phallic family, which are my, you know, my adopted family, you guys were there too, and we had the first, you know, kosher dinner in the National Palace in the city. So what I'm saying is, it's really about finding and you know, if they say no straight up, it doesn't matter. You can go around and definitely use us, because I know that there are tons of Christian organizations that would take it almost as a mission. Put the mission out there and they will go for it.
Okay, thank you. I love that idea. And Tila, since we're talking about embassies and you're our official ambassador of the Binyamin region, if you'd like to share one more idea, and I think that you and I should work on this embassy project together. I think
I want to share an idea that has not something specifically to do with this conversation, but it shows you how when hard work and dedication and people come together, you can accomplish anything. A year ago today, nobody would think that the hostages would be back home alive. And we're now sitting in a situation where we have one body still in Gaza. His name is Ran Gvili. And I just want to make a mention of his name because we are waiting for the last hostage to come home. And it shows you how important we celebrate life and we celebrate the respect after life for every single human. Today, we said goodbye in Israel to the Thailand citizen who was the last one, non-Israeli citizen, to be taken back home for a proper burial. And now we're waiting for Ran Gvili. And later you'll hear from Tsur Golden, the twin of Hadar Golden, that we waited way too long for. So just like we activated our Christian friends, I just want to make a call to action to make sure that everybody knows that we cannot end this war and we cannot move on until Ran Gvili is back. And that is when we are ready for phase 2 or for the future or for the day after. We brought back Hadar after 12 years, I believe, and we will bring Ran Gvili home along with everybody that came home up until now. So I'd like to end it just with that point.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Yaron Lutz, will discuss the aspects of post-traumatic growth in social activism. Yaron is the CEO of the Israeli Volunteer Association of the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration.
על העיקר הזה אנו עומדים וממנו לא נזוז. שכל מי שיתמסר במשך 2 שנים לשירות החברה החדשה, הרי הוא רשאי להיות חבר בה, בלי הבדל לאום או דת. רק אז תהיה ציון לציון.
כל בוקר מחדש.
אני זוכה לראות, לשמוע,
לגעת,
לתת. ביטחון המדינה זה כבר לא מושג שקוראים עליו בעיתון, שומעים עליו ברדיו או בטלוויזיה. זה היום-יום שלנו.
להיות במרכז העשייה, לעמוד בחזית הדיפלומטית, למצב את מעמדה של ישראל ובכך לשמר את החוסן הלאומי שלה.
גם בארץ וגם בעולם אנחנו עם אחד. להיות שם בקהילות, בבתי הספר ואפילו בעת לחימה. אחרי הכל, אנחנו אחים.
עברתי הרבה דברים בחיים. לא פעם ולא פעמיים כמעט הגעתי לקצה. מצאתי את הריפוי שלי בטבע, בחיבור לאדמה. להיות כתובת לנוער בסיכון כמוני, זו זכות אדירה.
השירות בגן הפך אותי לעצמאית. אני חלק מהצוות, מעריכים אותי. סוף סוף אני מרגישה משמעותית. אני כל כך אוהבת את הילדים, והם מחזירים לי אהבה.
אין זכות גדולה יותר מלהציל חיים, וזה לא משנה מאיזו עדה, דת או מגזר. כשאני צועדת בבית החולים עם האחריות הזאת על הכתפיים, אני פשוט מרגישה גאווה.
באנו לכאן לתת אהבה לילדים, וללוות אותם במלחמה היומיומית על החיים. כל כך חשוב להעניק תמיכה למשפחה, וזה פשוט מרגש אותי לראות אותם שמחים.
עבור ישי, בנות השירות הן כל עולמו, אבל בעצם הן פה בשביל כל המשפחה.
כשהיא איתו, זה מאפשר לי לקחת רגע לעצמי, לתת מקום לשאר הילדים. ההתמודדות עם המחלה הופכת לאפשרית יותר בזכותן.
אני רק מתנדב אחד.
כמוני באגודה יש 9,000 בכל שנה, ב-600 יישובים.
מכל המגזרים.
יוצרים שינוי.
בונים עתיד.
בונים עתיד.
בונים עתיד.
במשך 50 שנה הרחבנו את מעגלי העשייה והנתינה. יצרנו חיבורים בין כל חלקי החברה הישראלית, כי רק ככה בונים את החוסן של מדינת ישראל.
רק ככה בונים את החוסן של מדינת ישראל.
50 שנות התנדבות עברו, ופנינו לעבר 50 השנים שיבואו. יחד אנחנו יוצרים שינוי, ובונים עתיד טוב יותר. האגודה להתנדבות.
תודה. First, I would like to thank my good friend, the chairman of the Besheva group, Dudu Seada, and his deputy, Dudi Finkler, for the privilege to sharing with you the inspiring work of the Israeli Volunteer Association, האגודה להתנדבות. As you all know, we have faced two difficult years of war that have cast a shadow over our world, over Israel and the Jewish people everywhere. Our home front became our front line. This darkness touched families in Israel, classrooms in Europe, and campuses across North America. This is not only an Israeli reality, it is a shared Jewish experience. We are all trying to live with pain, to breathe again, and to find our way forward. But there is something powerful that gives me hope. From pain, growth can emerge. When psychologists speak of post-traumatic growth, or PTG, they are describing what Viktor Frankl witnessed in Auschwitz, that from humanity's darkest chapter, some appear not broken, but transformed. It was those who could find the meaning, a sense for purpose, who survived with their humanity still standing. Frankl wasn't inventing something new. He was channeling thousands of years of Jewish wisdom. Where our response to brokenness is reconstruction, not despair. And that's exactly what we see every single day through our organization. For over 50 years, we have been the backbone of national service in Israel. More than 200,000 young men and women have volunteered through our programs in hospitals, Magen David Adom, schools, youth villages, welfare offices, even in the Mossad, in the Shabak, and many, many other places. Our volunteers come from every part of Israeli society, Jews, Druze, Arabs, New Olim, young people with special needs, and youth at risk. Let me tell you a short story. A few months ago, before Rosh Hashanah, I met a group of young women who had just made Aliyah on their own. They are all sat together in a circle, introducing themselves and sharing their stories. I felt nothing but honored. They could have chosen an easier path, but they chose to serve with courage and purpose. When I think about resilience, in the most of the basic sense of it, this is what I see. Not as a slogan, but as a lived experience of doing. Today, some of these young women have joined one of our main missions in north of Israel, an area which suffered greatly but didn't receive much attention and support. Our volunteers are working with the elderly, with children at risk, and with the families trying to rebuild their lives. They do it quietly, humbly, and with love. They are not just rebuilding homes, they are receiving hope. And now we are opening a new door, a new way to turn pain into growth and connection into action. This is our new Gap Year volunteering program for young adults from North America, for those who want to spend a year in Israel while making a real impact, serving in hospitals, schools, and community centers, taking part in Israel's recovery. The program includes an educational and social framework well supported by our best professionals. It is meaningful and accessible. But most importantly, it creates a deep sense of belonging through shared work, responsibility, and purpose. For me, this is a 2026 pioneering. You may not be able to stand with us physically, but you can stand with us in spirit, in action. Help us strengthen those who give their time, their hearts, and their energy to rebuild the North. In a few weeks, I will celebrate my birthday. And we will all celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah. As we light the menorah, we honor the history of our people, a history that teaches us that even the smallest flame can shine through darkness. And just as that light pierces the shadows, each act of volunteering brings hope to our communities, lifting them and creating a real change. In the word of Chazal, מעט מהאור מכבה הרבה מהחושך. A little light dispels much darkness. Thank you for believing in the power of volunteering and for standing with us on this journey of healing and renewal. Thank you very much.
Last month, Israelis were gripped with deep emotions as the body of IDF Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, killed in an ambush in Gaza in 2014 and held by Hamas for 11 years, was finally returned home. Today, we are honored to have his twin brother, Tzu, with us, carrying a powerful message.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the past 11 years, I stood before you as the twin brother of Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, held by Hamas in Gaza. My family, led by Hadar's parents, Leah and Simcha Goldin, my parents, traveled to all corners of the earth to mobilize his release back home for burial since the year 2014. Today, I'm proud to stand before you as Lieutenant Hadar Goldin's twin brother, who was an IDF hero, whom the Jewish nation never gave up upon and brought him back home last month. The story of the efforts to retrieve Hadar is utterly incredible. Intelligence on Hadar's location in Rafah and of the terrorists who obtained and hid him was secured by IDF intelligence as early as the year 2017. When the IDF finally entered Rafah in South Gaza in 2024, 10 months into the war, Hadar's tunnel, as you can see, code-named White Sparrow, Hadar being the sparrow, was located. That exact tunnel, located under the home of Hamas's Rafah military commander Shabaneh, uncovered to be the command and control headquarters of Hamas military leadership throughout the war until then. It was there, a few rooms from where Hadar was held, where all the Rafah brigade's chain of command was hit in a few days. Hadar's tunnel was also the source from which the IDF intelligence and special units later traced and led to the targeted hit on Mohammed Def, military Hamas chief of staff, and eventually Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's leader. From the very first day the tunnel was located, and for over a year of search, Hadar was finally found and brought back for burial 1 month ago. Thousands of soldiers in various units, outstanding 162 Division, Sheit 13, the Israeli Navy SEALs, and Yalom engineering soldier, fought in Rafah and also searched for Hadar in the most advanced and complicated tunnel in the Gaza Strip. By the time Trump's agreement for Gaza signed off in October, the IDF's control on Hadar's tunnel system and the amount of evidence collected left Hamas no choice but to adhere and assist to locate Hadar, one of their most preserved assets. It's with deep pride and admiration that we see the legacy that the brave, creative, and stubborn generation of intelligence and combat soldiers left us on the Battle of Rafah and of White Sparrow, an outstanding example of determination, pursuit of victory, ruthless persistence, and belief in the path not to leave anyone behind. And what about us, the Golden family? How did we experience the efforts to bring Hadar home? As we knew about the comprehensive intelligence on Hadar's whereabouts, we were expecting his return every minute over a year, until eventually the unbelievable moment happened over 3 weeks ago, when my mother Leah received the message that Hadar is home. The IDF brought him home. Israel brought him home. We waited for a long time as the count went down from 255 hostages to 150 to 100 to 50 hostages and to the last 4 hostages. It seemed Hadar, left behind for so many years from 2014 until October 7, stood on guard to make sure all Israel's hostages are brought back home. One, Ron Gvili, is still held behind. Peter Drucker once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." He said that in context of organization, management, and strategy. For 11 years, my family knocked on every door in the quest to bring Israel's hostages home and worked tirelessly to create a future where hostages are being thought upon and retrieved, and that terrorist entities pay the ultimate price for holding Israeli hostages. At times, it felt hard and in many times impossible. Just as Israel, mystified by misconceptions of Hamas's intentions and operations in the south, it was also mystified by clear misconception about its effort to retrieve its hostages. From the day my brother was abducted and murdered until October 7, Israel went through 19 combat rounds and 3 full-scale operations in Gaza without demanding the release of its hostages. It never demanded the retrieval of its hostages as a precondition of many dozen vast agreements of finance, reconstruction of Gaza, including the deal of the century. Within that time frame, until 2023, over 1,000 Hamas-affiliated prisoners were released according to official prison data, when Hadar was left behind with no demand, in addition of tens of thousands of Gazan workers entering Israel daily. By the way, those workers, out of which many provided the intel for October 7 massacre. Unfortunately, it took October 7 to take all of us to look at the situation and to turn the situation and understand that the situation of 2 civilian hostages and 2 deceased IDF soldier hostage turned into a 255 hostages national crisis. All those years we raised the flag, even when it was unpopular, even were the only voice to shout it out loud. But our struggle was not in vain. Years of sweat and tears helped set the language that fights for hostages. As the war initiated from October 7, our professional volunteer teams from all our organizations in Israel and America, all our operations, those people initiated from 2014, drafted to duty in almost every place of impact since October 7. They were in government, military, intelligence, and negotiation teams in key roles. Our champions also helped mobilize the public language, talking about hostage-taking as a form of terrorism and calling for deterrence on the very notion of hostage-taking, bringing to a situation that the Israeli government actively operates to military, financially, legally, and diplomatically retrieve hostages, and where the obtainment of hostages by Hamas is called to be a burden for Hamas rather than an asset, and Hamas pays disproportionate prices on daring to hold any Israeli in the target to make them not do that again. My dear father Simcha's decade-long talks and education with youth movements and pre-military and military academics academies influence a generation of young soldiers with strong dedication to the values of shared faith and retrieving our hostages. In October 7, my family's first action was to release the public message offering support to all people who face the contingency of missing relatives. By October 7 night, a list of over 500 families was formed in our headquarters. Then the list stabilized to the number 255 Israeli hostages. And that got sent to the Israeli government and to the US administration with our guidance. I myself was on my way to war in October 7 per my role as an infantry company commander. But I remember the first video conference very vividly as we announced to all horrified families, you will not be alone, you will not stand alone, you will not be walking alone. We will bring all Israeli society, regardless of its political views, to fight for hostages. Throughout the 9 years before the war and since my brother's abduction, political parties unfortunately advocated and fought for hostage only when it suited their political interests. So we decided that from now on, we will push all parties to lead the national effort to retrieve hostages, each according to its ideology. If there is a debate on the means and results, let there be a debate on how to bring the hostages home instead of whether to leave them all behind. We believe the impossible path to bring hostages was the path to bring us back to our identity home. Values instead of interests. Let me shout a clear message to every family listening to us. Never be ashamed of bringing our loved ones home. The pride of our nation, our Jewish identity, is our sense of shared faith and our willingness to fight for one another and never give up on one another. Hostages can be brought back in many ways. We should never give up on them regardless of our ideology. This war proved our strength and unity. The legacy of this war, of this amazing generation and all good soldiers and civilians that sacrificed so much in our ability to not to give up on each other. This is the basis for the future of Zionism and of our children's pride. Based on that, we can and we will achieve the impossible and beyond. Hamas's kidnapping terrorism seeks to bring the Israeli society to a dilemma where we have to choose from endangering ourselves and releasing convicted terrorist murderers or abandoning our loved ones and creating a moral felony effectively endangering our national security. Hamas uses this method of terrorism targeted on families that seek to bring their loved ones home in order to create a divide between us all and to choose who is worth retrieving and who is not and in what price. Is it children or women or men, elderly or young, civilians or soldiers, live, injured or deceased? The answers for this method of terrorism against families is deterrence. The IDF dictionary term for deterrence, harta'a, is defined as a situation where the enemy understands that the price against his action is much greater than what he hopes to achieve in his actions. The way to counter the kidnapping terrorism is when Hamas pays an unproportionate price on hostage taking. Let all our enemies know, hear, feel, and adhere. This is a nation that will never accept the abduction of our loved ones, dead, injured, or alive. Let that be your attempt, and you will pay the price. It is in this context that I call for immediate action from Israeli government and the US administration against Hamas that keeps holding Ran Gvili, our last fallen hostage in Gaza, in complete violation of the October Trump agreements. According to the agreement, Hamas obligated to retrieve and give information on the location of all deceased hostages within 72 hours. The IDF MIA headquarters presented the mediators unquestionable evidence of the names of the Islamic Jihad terrorists that directly buried and now hide Gvili, and that their information allows the effective, immediate retrieval of our last hostages before this year, December, ends. This 8-week violation by Hamas must be met with targeted Israeli force. I want to seize this chance to acknowledge Besheva Group, that to my family's experience never mixed values with interests, and ever since my brother's abduction in 2014, covered the efforts concerning Gaza and hostage affairs fearlessly, professionally, and objectively. They stood out, and this was the case long before all people of Israel were exposed to the horrors of October 7th. So thank you. I'm deeply excited to end my note with gratitude now that my brother's picture is on the screen. This is a gratitude in the name of my family to you, all people in the crowd, all people watching us, all Am Israel, all good people in Israel and around the world, Jewish and from all other identities and faith that brought our hostages home. Every prayer, every candle lit, every post, every small and big gesture to advocate for our sense of shared fate. And most importantly, to our soldiers, our brave soldiers of the IDF, who sacrifice and stay on guard for all of us and the many families of fallen soldiers and civilians whom we have the definite quest and obligation to be worthy to and make the memory of their loved ones blessed and create life. I also want to thank, in the name of hostage families, President Trump and the U.S. administration for achieving the impossible and being the greatest ally of Israel. In this war, yes. In this war, we can predict the future if we are the ones who create it. Am Israel Chai. Thank you.
Thank you, Tzul. Our next panel will discuss one of the major challenges that we've faced after October 7th, and that is anti-Semitism on U.S. campuses. Or rather, to be more accurate, one of the major overlooked challenges in recent years that we saw erupting on full scale after October 7th. I'll let the panel decide how to unpack this topic. And to moderate the conversation, first I would like to invite Ariella Novak, broadcast journalist and co-founder of Bottom Line Media and Shield Communications PR. Ariella will be joined by Gabriel Groisman, founder of Groisman LLC and former mayor of Bal Harbor. And Ilan Sinelinkov, president and founder of Students Supporting Israel. Did I butcher it, Ilan? Sinelinkov.
More Russian. More Russian. Money's coming later.
We'll wait for the rest of our cheers. That's okay. Anyway, thank you all for joining me today. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. Firstly, Gabe, we go a little way back here in terms of the media warfare, your videos that you've been creating and your network that you've created in terms of creating all the videos that you've done and interviews that you've done most recently. Can you discuss, firstly, your endeavor that you're doing with your videos? Your mic.
There we go. Maybe I was better with the mic off. So thanks for the question. Look, I think we have a huge challenge when it comes to media narratives. And when we've seen since October 7th, but really even before then, October 7th, I think Ariella just highlighted how bad the situation is, where just getting plain truths out there is impossible. When the left, in general now, doesn't talk about objective truths, they talk about your truth and my truth, which is absolutely nonsense, of course, because truth is objective, right? Everybody can have their own experiences or perspective, but truth is supposed to be the bedrock principle. And when you're talking about free speech, you also need to have free markets of ideas. So the concept with my podcast that I started, we're hitting 100 episodes actually next week or the week after, was to actually have political discussions with political leaders in the U.S. and in Israel and just try to get some real information out there. I'm not trying to be Pierce Morgan and challenge folks, but really just have serious, substantive discussions about the important issues so at least we can start getting that information out there.
Well, thank you. Now, given your work with and your role with students that you're working with every day, I also work with students in a different capacity in terms of within media. And now, what is the most practical and actionable steps students can take now to take their narrative back, educate those around them, their peers, and push back against the distortion of anti-Semitism? How do you advise them?
That's a
I know that's a loaded
big
one.
question to unpack, but basically to be practical,
The biggest challenge on campus, it's an organization called Students for Justice in Palestine that I'm sure many of you heard. They started in the 90s at UC Berkeley, and today they have about 300 registered student clubs. Students Supporting Israel, we started in 2012 at the University of Minnesota with about 115 registered student clubs across the country. So to the question, what's the most practical step, and to bring it down from theory to practice, first, Zionist students need to be not afraid or not ashamed of their Zionism. They need to go into the university and register a pro-Israel student club on their campus. As soon as that club is being registered, the first step should be to get out there into the student union, into the freshman dorms, into the libraries, and start tabling with the Israeli flag in front of them, with talking to students about Israel, changing those conversations in hearts and minds, and then taking that action from becoming an activist that has the passion but doesn't necessarily has the how, from an activist to a community organizer, from hosting a protest and demonstration to running the student government and winning the student government elections, just like here at Florida Atlantic University, where our SSI president is also the FAU representative of Tallahassee to the state capitol.
Can I just interject with something? First, I want to say about Elon and Students Supporting Israel, SSI, one of the best Jewish groups on college campuses today.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you why. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I can tell you why. Because most Jewish organizations today in college campuses, what they try to do is to equivocate and to reduce Judaism and Zionism down to nothing, to bisli and falafel, to try to not offend people. But SSI doesn't take that approach. They take a strong and principled approach. And I'll share, I know it's out of turn, but yesterday I got a phone call from a parent of a student at New York University at NYU who is pro-Israel and actually has been pretty quiet about it because she doesn't want to offend anybody in her school. There's a concerted effort happening to this student every day that the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic crowd is going around to every person she associates with, every professor, every student, every club member, etc., saying, don't associate yourself with this girl. She's a dirty Zionist. And she doesn't know what to do, and I'm giving advice to the clients. And part of
join SSI.
Part of it is to find circles like SSI, which I mentioned yesterday to this little girl's father.
Now, we attended Kufi, Christians Unite for Israel, and I also just got back on Friday from attending the largest delegation of over 1,000 pastors and educators in Israel of non-Jewish people, that I was actually the token Jew in the room, which was interesting in Israel. Anyway, how important do you feel that it is to engage with people that are outside of, the Jewish world and outside of what our education system is, etc.?
Just quickly, I just got back with the Combat Anti-Semitism movement. I think Lisa Katz is here. We hosted almost 200 mayors from around the country on a conference against anti-Semitism. To do it effectively, we partnered with the African American Mayors Association. We had African American mayors from across the United States. You can guess what most of their political affiliation is. It's not the political affiliation that is generally pro-Israel. But the idea is to engage. It's important to strengthen our own community, but it's critical to get outside of our community. By the way, not just to our allies like the evangelicals, but we should do that, but also to people who don't agree with us, to have hard discussions and to build real relationships, because if we don't do that, we don't have a chance.
And now, Elon, yes,
if I may add on the same topic, we know that there's more college students in America than Jewish people in the entire world. About a year ago, we rolled out an SSI campaign called Breaking Bread, in which we have our students supporting Israel activists approaching Christian students on the college campuses together for a first-time conversation to try to build those bridges. We see that even within the Christian community nowadays, there's so many voices that call to boycott Israel or to cut aid to Israel. And we need to make sure that we penetrate those communities and create those allyships before they turn against Israel. So with our Breaking Bread program, with us approaching not just the Christian communities, but the Hindus, the Chinese Students Association, looking east and not into the traditional players on the college campuses, that's how we can try to bring those students into our side and make sure that we change those conversations and not just one day waking up saying that the whole world is against us, which already feels like it, but it's not necessarily the reflection on the ground.
Any upcoming events or happenings within either your work with CAM that's coming up or within the work that you're doing with students that you wanted to discuss, or something that you just held as well?
Well, first of all, we have our national conference in Florida Atlantic University with 130 student leaders flying from all over across North America to FAU soon to bring them to probably the most pro-Israel campus nowadays in the country. And a big project that we're working on, for example, I'm not sure how many of you saw a video from Toronto Metropolitan University where IDF soldiers was physically, his arm hurt because of pro-Palestinians, Hamas supporters stormed into the classroom. We're bringing IDF soldiers to the campuses. This is the biggest punch in the face that groups like SJP can see. When you bring those IDF soldiers proudly to share their truths and what they have witnessed on the ground, we just hosted them this semester alone on 37 universities. We'll keep bringing IDF soldiers to our campuses to share their truths, because IDF soldiers are always and forever welcomed on every single college campus across North America. This is their badge of honor.
So I don't have any I have lots of events. It's nonstop, right? It's a ongoing endeavor. But what I did want to mention, which you didn't ask, but I'm going to do it anyways, is I focus a lot of my professional efforts when it comes to government and politics. And I think that the political arena is an arena that all Jews need to play in today. Many Jews are uncomfortable playing in that arena. We say, look, we shouldn't make things a partisan issue. We are right now at an existential moment for American Jewry. Before October 7th, we had a crisis of apathy with over 50% of Jews in the United States not caring at all about their Judaism, not being connected at all to Israel. If you don't believe me, look up the Pew Research polls that come out every single year. We were fighting with one hand tied behind our back, and we got punched in the face on October 7th. And since then, the political landscape has gotten more and more difficult for us. To speak totally candidly, the Democratic Party has left the pro-Israel community and in large part the Jewish community. But I said today, I was quoted this morning in the Jerusalem Post on this, it turns out that American politics is the free market system. So if you believe in democratic politics and you want to vote for Democrats, it's amazing, you should. But the people need to pay a price for these positions. Don't support candidates that don't support you. Whether it's a wrong party that you don't like, it doesn't matter. This isn't the time for secondary issues. This is time to make sure we can ensure our future for Jewish Americans. I take no pride in making that statement about the Democratic Party. On the Republican side, right now the party is great, but you can look at the voices around conservative media, and it's horrible, and in conservative circles, and it's our job to put up a brick wall that cannot be penetrated, to not allow them to get into politics on the Republican side. All hands need to be on deck. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation. Sir, people will complain that I said this or that. It doesn't matter. Those conversations need to be had, and all Jews, there's not many of us, 6 million in the United States, all of us need to get involved in U.S. politics today.
Now, if I may add, I tell our students that while the war on the paper ended in Israel, in America the war is just starting, because Mamdani is the first one out of thousands of Mamdanis out there. And we need to make sure that young students go into those politics, running for elections, get involved, because this is the hill to die on. And if not now, then never. We must win this fight. And join us aside if you have grandkids or children.
Thank you so much.
ותקבל עוד יותר טוב.
אתה הכי טוב.
להציע יותר טוב שלך.
גבירותיי ורבותיי, תחת נושא האתר בנמל התעופה בן גוריון. ברוכים הבאים לישראל.
Israel is strong and growing. Now more than ever is the time to make Aliyah.
Okay, to lead the next conversation, I would like to invite Libby Alon, U.S. correspondent for Israel's national channel 14 News, which is sort of the Israeli version of Fox News, if you will. She will be joined by Mike Drekas, Director of Strategic Fundraising and Community Relations for AFMDA in the southern region. But first, a short video.
העבודה שלנו במד"א היא כולה על נתינה והצלת חיים.
אנחנו מגיעים לאנשים ברגעים הכי קשים שלהם בחיים.
כולם ביחד, כולם יד אחד, מחויבים למדינה.
אנחנו לא נותנים לעצמנו להוריד את הרגל מהגז ולו לרגע.
אמרו את זה קודם, לפניי זה לא משנה.
השביעי באוקטובר עוד יותר הדגיש לי כמה אני גאה להיות חלק ממשפחת מד"א.
הצוותים של מגן דוד אדום פעלו כולם תחת סיכון חיים. פשוט ממשיכים לטפל תחת אש.
ושום דבר לא מעניין אותנו חוץ פשוט לעזור לאחרים.
את כל המתנדבים שלנו, את כל העובדים שלנו, כל אחד רק בא ורוצה לתת מעצמו.
אני קודם כל נפעם מכם, נשות ואנשי מד"א, אין דבר כזה בעולם.
כל פעם שאני שמה את המדים מחדש, זו תחושת גאווה.
אני גאה ללבוש את המדים האלה, אני גאה להיות חלק מהארגון. I'm very proud to be a volunteer in מגן דוד אדום.
יש פה צוותים מדהימים, מלאכים בלבן, ממש ככה. תמיד אמרתי שאנחנו שליחים של אלוהים.
בטוח שלרובם במקום כדוריות דם אדומות, יש ככה מגן דוד קטנים כאלה. כי זה ה-DNA של הארגון.
אני רוצה לומר לכם תודה בשם כל עם ישראל.
Great video. Mike, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for being here today. Tell me something very important. How does a religious man who made Aliyah from France and spent his entire career working in high-tech find himself representing the state of Israel as a diplomat and later joining Madam Magen David?
Are you sure we have only 15 minutes? First, I want to give a round of applause for the guys that we just saw here on Magen David Adom. They are one who are doing the job, saving lives every day in Israel, and it's very important to understand that. Thank you, Libby, for everything. So, first, I want to say thank you to Hashem, because this is my Zionist journey began when I was 15, and this is the reason I'm here today. But I owe a lot to my parents, who educated us in a very Zionist way, very Jewish way. Judaism was very anchored at home, and I come from a very modest family, and we were living in the suburbs of France, of Paris, very Muslim neighborhood, very violent neighborhood, but they never give up on Jewish education. They never give up on Zionism, and Israel was in the center of everything. We couldn't put our mezuzah at the entrance of the home, but we had a big hatikva with this flag of Israel at the entrance of the home. This was the first thing that you saw when you entered my home, and actually I'm continuing that with my kids. But not only that, from the moment we were born, my siblings and I, we all had three names. My name is Mike Benjamin Chen. Mike has a secular name, Benjamin for my late grandfather, Zichrono Livracha, and Chen for the moment we will make Aliyah. So the Aliyah was very, very well anchored in our personality. And at the age of 15, I pushed my parents, and I decided that I want to go to the IDF to serve. I wanted to be in the Golani Brigade. It didn't work. I was in the Nahal. Maybe at the time I was not tanned enough to be in the Golani Brigade. And I started in the Nahal, and the Zionist journey accompanied me during all my life. When I finished, I was very analytical. And some of my friends say, Mike, you should study engineering. I was in the electrical and computer engineering department of Ben-Gurion University. And I worked in all facets of technology in Israel, from bitachon, from defense, to telecommunication, data. I had my startup, but something was missing in my heart. I decided that I wanted to do more. And I was volunteering for a lot of things, National Police, Miluim. I met some delegations outside of Israel during my MBA. I was offered a PhD in Harvard, which I refused in order to serve my country. But when I got married in the first year, my wife, Naama, who is here, and luckily enough, she's not with the kids today, because this is what she does when I'm out in the evenings. And she told me, Mike, please have a seat. She was as pregnant as we can be after 1 year. And she told me, Mike, please have a seat. I was the interviewee. She was the interviewer. And she told me, don't you like me or something? It's been 1 year. I never see you. You're always volunteering for everything. And I told her, no, of course. And she just pushed me. She said, make your volunteering your job. This is your vocation. This is what you should do. And I decided to apply. We had an incident in which she had a brain surgery, and she was resuscitated by MADA. And I will talk about it later. And we decided to follow our dreams, to represent the state of Israel. I applied for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was very different at the time. I was from Besheva, from Tech, 37 years old, married and 2 kids, and with a kippah, which was not very common at the time. And I applied. I was accepted to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It was a 7 years most challenging that we had for the state of Israel, the rise of anti-Semitism, the round of conciliation with Hamas, of course, October 7th, and when, after 7 years, very challenging years, we decided that we want to finish our job in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Magen David Adom, I heard that, they called me, they said that they have a vacant position, and I said, this is a natural continuation of what I was doing for Israel, and Kol HaMetzil Nefesh Achat, as we say in Hebrew, is like saving an entire world. So I decided to go for MADA. And now I'm the director in the Southeast region. Actually, I'm inviting all of you to go to our gala in next week. It's going to be incredible. I'm not promoting anything. I'm just telling you. And when I start MADA, you will, why MADA? Because exactly as the IDF is protecting the borders of Israel and the Israelis, MADA is preserving the lives of the Israelis. They are the backbone, the infrastructure of Israeli life, and MADA was created before the State of Israel. MADA was 18 years old when the State of Israel was created. We are 95 years now, saving lives and protecting life in Israel. And I discovered so many things. In Israel, when you have a problem, you just call MADA 101. It's a no-brainer. It's like the 911 in the United States. But I discovered so many things about the number of calls that are done for MADA. 3.6 million calls every year. It's 300,000 a month, 10,000 a day. It's every second we have an ambulance dispatch and saving life in Israel. We are the only blood bank, the only breast milk bank. And I think that it was Dr. Freelander who talked about the IDF and what happened on October 7th. And he said that if MADA didn't have the blood bank to save, to give to the blood to injured soldiers, we would have lost many more lives. And as someone who just returned from the IDF, I was in Operation Rising Lion. I re-volunteered after being a diplomat. I served as a thank you. I served as a sharpshooter, as a sniper. I'm very well placed in order to understand how crucial MADA is, Magen David Adom, with the integration with the IDF.
Now, in your view, first of all, yes, he deserves it. Thank you. Now, in your view, what is the significance of Israel-U.S. relations and the connection between diaspora Jews and the State of Israel?
So, I'm very well placed to tell about the U.S.-Israel relationship because, Baruch Hashem, I was able to serve in Latin America first and then in the United States for a total of 7 years in the Foreign Service. And we had a lot of initiatives, political initiatives, economical initiatives, national security initiatives. And it's not a secret that the U.S. is the greatest ally of Israel and Israel is the greatest ally of the United States. But I want to look at it in a way in which Israel is not depending on the United States. Israel is not leaning on the United States. Israel today is a country who can defend itself, and actually it did that in front of 7 fronts during 2 years, something incredible. And the U.S. alliance is something that we cannot allow to lose. It's very important for us. And I worked in economics and politics and everything, but I think that now that I joined philanthropy, I'm entering into the phase in which I'm more connected to the hearts. I was connected to all the Jewish communities and non-Jewish communities that support Israel. But through philanthropy, I really rediscovered what can be done. And I think that every one of us here, and we are in an amazing conference by Besheva and the Falik family, of course, and it's very, very important to understand that every one of us has a duty to defend Israel, to stand still. And because, as Shikli said, I think it was during the Shabbat, that is Minister Shikli, we are very well acquainted. I had the privilege to collaborate with him. And he said that his job is 2 things, Sur Mera v'Asetov. Asetov, the Jewish education, everybody has to need to be educated in a Jewish manner to understand the belonging to the nation of Israel, but also Sur Mera, to defend ourselves against anti-Semitism. Asbara is not something that we can afford to say anymore. This is not Asbara. This is the 8th front. We've fought in 7 front. This is the 8th front, and we have to stand tall against Qatar and Turkey and the Muslim Brotherhood and anyone who wants to annihilate us. And I think this is our duty to do so, every one of us here.
Yes. So in the last minute that we have, what are your future goals in MADA and in general?
My future goals will be very aligned with the people in this room to continue doing good for Israel. If you look at from a broader perspective, But I think that in terms of MADA, I want to deepen the relationship, the collaboration with the government here. We already have Atsala South Florida who is using our dispatch system, but I want to, in technology, because we have the most sophisticated dispatch system in the world, we want to, I'm very, I know technology, I worked in technology for 11 years, I want to be able to continue with it, to collaborate, but also to raise the awareness of what is MADA. This is the backbone, this is the infrastructure of saving lives in Israel, and exactly as the IDF is doing, we are doing the same in saving lives. It's very important. I'm not talking only about donation, I'm talking about supporting us, raising the awareness, and I want to thank every one of us, every one of you here for being present. Thank you.
Rodriguez, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
We know you. We know exactly how to turn every moment into one you love. Like this moment, now. When the background noise subsides and big things lose significance, routine turns to airplane mode, making room for new moments. We know you. We know how to make you feel safe, no matter the destination you choose. That's the feeling of being truly close. Knowing how to turn every adventure or meeting into an unforgettable moment. Whether standing, sitting, when you are relaxed, enjoying the whispering sounds of waves. We at El Al are here for these very moments, being there for you so you can feel at home away from home. Always working for you, opening the window to any moment you wish. With a new fleet of advanced Streamliner aircraft, with a wide and growing list of destinations, with the best loyalty program in Israel, with the most convenient times and best flight experience. For us, your home away from home is more than a slogan. It's a mission and way of life. So you will always feel at home wherever you go.
Okay, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage one of the most distinguished women here today, if I may say so myself, the Deputy Consul General, Miss Ayelet Black.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, it is an honor to give greetings from the Israeli consulate in Miami. Besheva Group, ILTV, and everyone who made this event possible, thank you for being here in the best place outside of Israel. Being the Israeli representative here is a true privilege. Working together with our wonderful partners to ensure the Florida-Israel relationship remains strong is a true privilege. The Jewish community here embodies the basic truth that Israel and Jewish communities around the world are two sides of one coin, and we always pay the price together. October 7th brought the most challenging times for the modern state of Israel since its inception. To everyone who came from Israel today, you are standing in a place that slammed their foot on the gas the moment we needed them and haven't let up even for a moment ever since. It was incredible to see and experience the sheer commitment, resilience, expertise, and togetherness that was healing Israel from afar. We hurt and cried together, and we celebrated with our whole hearts when the live hostages were released. What a gift it is to have tangible proof of our unbreakable bond. This place did not become so wonderful in a vacuum. It's a result of the 24/7 efforts of the wonderful people of Florida. The community, Jews and non-Jews alike, the elected officials, the law enforcement, top to bottom and bottom to top, who work together constantly to ensure that moral clarity prevails, that all communities feel safe, and that we can cooperate for the betterment of Florida and Israel. And wow, there is so much to do. Israel-Florida cooperation is on a constant rise in all fields, culturally, economically, and beyond. Just this week, we saw so many Israeli artists display their work in Miami Art Week, a small country with a huge and remarkable presence. Yesterday, I had the privilege of celebrating Hanukkah with a Miami-Dade sheriff, in an office, one of the many that the Consulate of Israel is so grateful to work so closely with. We look forward to even more economic conferences who are making their way to Miami, in health tech and more, continued cooperation in space, water, environment, including investments that create jobs and income for both Israel and Florida. We sent several delegations to Israel and had even more high-level visits here. We continue to combat anti-Semitism while facing any challenge that arises together. This conference is more proof that Israel and Florida stand together. Florida, thank you for standing with us. We are proud to stand together with you. We are here just before Hanukkah, not by coincidence. The Jewish story is not a story of victimhood. It's a story of perseverance, contribution, and light. And that light is exactly what we need to celebrate. Light is the most basic element that defines our existence. God creates light first because light shows our reality and how we view it. And although Israel has overcome so many physical threats to our miraculous country, thanks to our incredible and brave men and women, we are looking at a different Middle East today, and we still need to, thank you. We must continue to pour so much light so the world sees this with moral clarity, so that evils of anti-Semitism are exposed, and so we can finally look towards our mission of creating a much better world. That is the spirit of Israel and the Jewish people, an unbreakable insistence on life, creation, and hope, even in the face of hatred. May this conference and all of us here together bring just that, and may we see the immediate release of Ran Gavili, Zichrono Livracha, so we can bring him home for burial with his family. May we all have a true Chag Sameach this year. Am Yisrael Chai, Toda Rabba.
Today, I'm visiting Ariel University.
It's our great pleasure that you are here. You have to just walk here and you feel something in the air that is different from other places.
This is a university that's located in the Judea-Samaria region. In this campus, there's 15,000 students who are getting an education. I had the privilege and opportunity to walk through all the incredible facilities, whether it was the medical department. So much thought goes into everything, or what they're doing with wine. Wow, beautiful. The ancient vines that they've discovered, bringing life back into this land. Grape from the land? Of Meod. Wow, wow. This is a university that's based around the fundamental idea that education, learning, and knowledge is going to not only better your life, but every single person's life that's around your community. It's been an absolutely amazing day. Thank you, Ariel University. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Okay. I now would like to call upon Nate Buzz, as well as my good friend Gabriel Boxer. You can join me on stage here. Gabriel is the Director of Strategic Partnerships from Ariel and part of Ariel University, as well as extremely active on social media. Go look him up, Kosher Guru, I have to tell you, as well as Nate Buzz, of course, who's one of Hollywood's bravest and most dedicated advocates for the state of Israel since October 7th, but also before. He's become a true ambassador for our people. Welcome to the stage.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here at the Jerusalem Conference in Miami. Thank you to Besheva and ILTV and Ariel University for hosting us. Nate, it's a pleasure seeing you in Miami, a little different than seeing you in Israel.
Yes, it's nice to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to represent Ariel University after experiencing the campus and all the amazing things they're doing, not only for the students, but that community.
But let's get right down to it. Speaking about Ariel University, when you first arrived at Ariel University, what was your immediate impressions, the campus, campus, the students. What felt different from what you expected before you arrived on campus?
I think one of the most important things about this university is its location. You know, I'm a big believer that, you know, the Jewish and Israeli identity really needs to build out a strong presence in Judea and Samaria. I mean, this is the heartland of all of Israel. And, you know, as someone who's outside of the Jewish community, someone who has, I guess, the opportunity and privilege to look from the outside in, but also to be on the inside and looking out, and analyzing the whole situation, the one thing that I've found amazing about the Jewish identity, wherever you go, all over the world, whether it's here in Miami, New York, you know, London, Sydney, they really pride themselves on education. You know, education is paramount for Jewish families, for communities, for their young people, and Ariel University is an opportunity where young people within Judea and Samaria and from all over the world can come and study, but be in the land, in the heartland of that. Now, what I found really interesting is from the last 2 years, one thing I've realized about this, you know, faux Arab-Palestinian identity, and I call it a faux Arab-Palestinian identity because it became exclusively Arab in the 1960s. It didn't exist prior to 1948. There was no such thing as an Arab-Palestinian in 1948. They didn't identify themselves as this. But just as the Jew has pride in education, I've discovered and I've learned over the last several years visiting Israel and Judea and Samaria is that the Arab-Palestinian identity takes pride in radicalization. And they radicalize their children at a fast rate, which means I believe that the Jewish people need to educate their children at a faster rate and be more focused with that, because that's what the future holds.
Talking about education, you spent a lot of time talking with our students, including reservists, wounded soldiers, and young people carrying a lot on their shoulders. Was there a particular conversation or moment on campus that especially moved you, touched you, talked to you?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to sit with a soldier who was in a special unit. He was injured in Gaza. And if it hadn't been for Ariel University having not only the facilities for education, but also the rehabilitation center, he wouldn't be able to go and study. He needed to be somewhere where he could also do his rehabilitation and his study at the same time. And so that was just one story about Ariel University being so important. I mean, I think for people outside of Israel, sometimes it's really hard to understand the struggles and the challenges that Israelis actually have to face. Whether it just comes to simple things like education, they have more challenges than the average American Jew does when they're choosing their university. And that was just one example. But, you know, one thing that I remember is after I visited Ariel University, I went back to Tel Aviv and I caught up with a bodyguard that I had been working with at the beginning of the war, shortly after I came, post-October 7th. He was shot twice on October 7th on his way to the Nova Music Festival, ended up hiding in Sderot in a service station storage room where he almost was killed by Hamas, who had just infiltrated Sderot. We remember the footage. But I went and caught up with him after my visit to Ariel, and he said, "Oh, you went to my university?" And I was like, "You went to Ariel?" And he said, "Yes, and I love this university. It was some of the best days of my life studying there and getting the education that I needed." So, you know, I really have fallen in love with Ariel. This is why I'm I'm wearing the cap as like a promo thing. I actually wear it every single day.
Oh, I thought you were wearing it because you needed a yarmulke.
No, yeah, no yarmulke. But this is what I would love to see. You know, I would love to see both in Israel and outside of Israel, support for universities like Ariel, like we have support in the US. You know, I live in Georgia and I support the Bulldogs, which is they play in Athens, and that's the university I kind of love because I live in Georgia. I really think we need to build this sort of relationship with universities in Israel. And if you want to support a university that's doing incredible things, it really is Ariel. And they're the ones who are taking the greatest risks, and they're really taking a strong stand for what should be a very common denominator between all Jews, which is Zionism.
Well, we're talking about resilience, and you mentioned the story of this bodyguard who was shot and went to our university, and after 2 years of spending time in and out of Israel during the war, Ariel University is known for its resilience, a sense of community. Jews and Arabs, religious and secular, Israelis and internationals, all learning together, even during the time of war. How did the atmosphere feel when you were walking around the campus during wartime?
I mean, it's an incredible campus, really. It's you know, I mean, I got to see some of the state-of-the-art facilities that they're providing for these students. I mean, particularly what they're doing with ancient wines and regrowing these vines that have been dormant for thousands of years was incredible. But, you know, when you look at Arabs, Druze, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all studying in the same place, what it does is it breaks the lies of the Arab-Palestinian propagandists. That this land is apartheid, this land is an occupation, this land is oppressing people. In fact, it's the opposite, and that's always the case. You know, everything that the pro-Palestinian propaganda says online is usually the opposite, and it's usually what they desire to do or inflict on the Jewish identity. So
I want to talk about that for just 1 second, because we're talking about our biblical homeland, Judea and Samaria, and what's being put across social media. Because the media often talks about Ariel, which is in Judea and Samaria, in very political terms. When you compare those headlines with what you actually see in Ariel, what do you think people abroad must understand about this place, about Ariel University, and of course Judea and Samaria as a whole?
Look, I think it's the most important place in Israel because it provides a buffer. The reason why Tel Aviv can become such a safe city is because, you know, Judea and Samaria is in the hands of the Jewish identity, which is really acting as a buffer. And the more that life and communities and institutions like Ariel University are established and exist, the better safety Jews have all over that land. You know, I really think that it's essential that there's support from outside of Israel for these universities, because they have a really, really hard time even in Israel. Many people may not know this, but there's no legal department, there's no ability to study law at Ariel University, because there is a fear that all of a sudden this is going to become too controversial because of their location in Israel, which is unbelievable to me. So if a student wants to go and study law, they can't study at Ariel University purely because they're located in Judea and Samaria. It tells us how difficult the battle is. My hope, my goal, and my prayer to Hashem is that a day will come where law can be studied in Ariel University and students can get a full scope of education regardless of what the haters and those who oppose Israel desire to do. So this is one of the reasons why, for me, if I'm going to support any university, I'm going to support the one who is being the brave one, that's stepping onto the battlefield and saying, you know what, we're not going to be intimidated by the taunts and the mockery of our enemies. We're going to stand firm like King David did when he walked onto the valley of Elah, and we're going to hold our ground. So for me, Ariel University is the only university in Israel that's really saying, you know what, we're going to be the ones on the battlefield, and what we're trying to do is create life, create education, because the Torah tells us something really, really important. Hashem says, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. Knowledge is so powerful. If we've learned anything in the last 2 years, this is an information war on steroids, which means education must be at the forefront of Israeli life. What's happening at Ariel University is going to determine how Israelis live in the future for the next generation and the generation after that.
So with that being said, I want to thank you very much for not only being an ambassador, but being a lover, a true friend of Ariel University. And one thing that I think everyone could take away from hearing what Nate Buzz, who not only talks about Ariel and Judea and Samaria, but actually walked the grounds, the classrooms, has a love for it, is that we need your help to get that education to everybody across over there and to walk away of just becoming a partner, ambassador, and joining Ariel University for educating the future youth in Israel and abroad. So thank you very much. And Nate Buzz, thank you very much for joining us today and talking about our university.
Thank you.
Okay. My next panel, actually I'll invite my guests because I'm introducing as well as speaking. Come on up. Because I'm introducing and speaking. Now, our next panel is about what happens when support moves beyond statements and into real protection, public leaders, and moral clarity. It's about what Jewish communities are experiencing on the ground, and it's about what it looks like when a mayor stands up, when a rabbi speaks out, and when a congregation refuses to stay silent. And it's about how local leadership is shaping the national story and support for Israel. I'm honored to be joined by three leaders who represent civic, spiritual backbone of the American Jewish life. Seth Salver, Mayor of Bal Harbor, who we just met now.
Thank you.
Say hello.
Great to be here.
Rabbi, and I'm introducing in no particular order, I just want to make that clear. Rabbi Gavriel Kaskas, spiritual leader and of the Magen David congregation. And Rabbi Elliot Perlson of Temple Menorah. Welcome. Okay, so in my first question here, I would like to ask, what is it like to be a mayor here? And of course, we'll touch upon New York in a moment, but what is it like to be the new mayor here? Now, I believe you said you started 2 weeks ago?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so with all your experience, go ahead.
Yes, I've been on the council for 11 years, but I became the mayor 2 weeks ago, and everyone asked me, does it feel different? Is it different? And yes, if I was not the mayor, I probably wouldn't be on this stage. But more so, being in South Florida, we're very, very sheltered. I just came back from New Orleans, where we were there with the combat anti-Semitism movement.
That was what Sasha is doing with Kim is just tremendous.
Yes, and so we were there with a summit of mayors from all across North America. We had mayors from Canada, large cities, smaller cities, and what the message was that there are people that are afraid to be openly Jewish in some of these cities, especially you were alluding to New York, LA, the big cities. And for me, my goal is that when someone comes to my city, that they feel safe. They can be Jewish, they can be Christian, they can be whatever they want to be in Bal Harbor, because we respect people from all backgrounds and all walks of life. And that's really what this is about.
That's a beautiful answer, and we're going to touch upon New York in a moment, so stay tuned.
Thank you.
But Rabbi Kaskas, am I saying that correctly? Yes? Kaskas, I want to make sure. How do we educate the next generation, especially young Jews, to be proud, informed, and unafraid in a time when anti-Semitism feels louder and more normalized than ever?
Since October 7th, I want to say with pride, we brought to our shul almost every Shabbat people from Israel, soldiers, political figures, hostages, heroes, all kinds of people, because it's not, we say in Hebrew, eno dome shmi'a lere'iyah. It's not the same to hear something and to see it and to experience it. This past Shabbat, we had the honor of having Minister Shikli in our shul. He gave an amazing speech. We had Magen David Adom come in the afternoon. And the Dr. Friedlander who came. I think it's very important for the people, and this war really did a service, quote unquote, to the diaspora, that we made a very, very, very strong connection with these people in Israel. And to have a connection, a personal connection with them, in my experience, did tremendous, tremendous good, that people feel that it's not just another country with Jews, it's really our family, and it's really our place. And that made a very strong change in the personality, in the connection with the people. I believe this was very, very important, and we'll continue doing it.
It's so important to see firsthand. I work to take journalists to Israel, sort of like a birthright for journalists with people of all different backgrounds. And the first thing they need to say, and they rather do say, is, "Wow, how do I get these people from all the way in Israel to come visit us here?" I said, "It's not that hard. They'll come on your show." So you're right. It's about seeing firsthand. Now, Rabbi Perlson, how do we strengthen alliances with non-Jewish communities in a way that is meaningful, principled, and actually protective and productive, not just symbolic?
Can you ask the question a little bit more specific? Because...
And I'm not even a lawyer. So how do we strengthen alliances with different groups?
So I think that a number...
Thank you.
A number of the speakers this morning have already advocated a number of breakout methodologies. I think that as Zionists, we have to create bridges with non-Jewish Zionists and take advantage of the fact that there are, in the United States of America alone, 125 million evangelical Christians who are very pro-Israel. In addition to that, in Canada, there's an estimated 6 million evangelical Christians. In Central and South America, evangelical Christianity is slowly taking over classical Roman Catholicism. And the idea is that this is, especially in Central and South America, an untapped vehicle of extreme pro-Israel advocacy. Extreme pro-Israel advocacy. Not just political advocacy, but financial advocacy as well.
Yes. In their heart. I just returned now from a trip with, I was mentioning before, with the evangelicals. It was the largest trip they had go to Israel. It was over 1,000 people. And I stood there, as I said before, as the token Jew in the room in Israel, which was in itself very interesting. And we stood together to pray. And somebody said to me, "Can I hold your hands to pray?" And I said, "Okay." And the way they spoke to me and gave me the meaning behind the name Esther, we're not so far apart. What brought us together is truly our Zionism and the fact that they support the right of our land. And I encourage everyone to really hold their hand and have that conversation.
Just one step further is that, for example, in the Ivory Coast, there's a growing population of evangelical Christians who are extremely pro-Israel. It's estimated that just in the Ivory Coast, the African country on western coast, that there are 4 million pro-Zionists. The total population of world Jewry, we hope, is 15 million. In one African extremely wealthy nation.
Wow.
Think about it, what we could do.
Well, I guess we're going back to Israel. Okay, so now I'll touch on that question for you. So since October 7th, mayors across the country have taken a very different stance when it comes to protecting Jewish residents, I would say, and standing with Israel. When Mamdani is going to be coming now our next mayor in New York, he won his election, and the most common phrase I now hear people saying is, "When is everyone making Arida to Florida?" And to that I say, what makes Florida so special? And I know the answer to this, but I'll allow for you, specifically the Bal Harbor community. Go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, it's really the tone at the top. It's not just Bal Harbor, Miami-Dade County. It's really, this was started by our governor, who wanted Florida post-COVID to be really open for business, open for everyone. And it's something that everyone has kind of fallen in line, where the legislature has passed many bills promoting people moving here and businesses and growth and really removing regulation. So Bal Harbor itself, which, you know, for those that don't know, has a very interesting backstory. When it was founded in 1946, it was actually within the Platte, where people, anybody with more than a quarter of Hebrew or Syrian blood couldn't even own a home in Bal Harbor.
Wow.
And today, just to tell you about the transformation of South Florida, we have 5 Jewish members of our council, 3 are Orthodox, and Bal Harbor, you know, yeah, let's give it. So
it's
that's like a real like Purim story, like Vinahapahu, you know, it went from one extreme to the other. But that being said, post October 7th, for us it was about just making sure that our Jewish residents feel safe. And what does that mean? That means are you able to walk to synagogue and not feel threatened? You know, these are things that affect Jews in big cities, because for example, I'm a millennial mayor. This was the first time in my life that I felt, and I've always worn a kippah, and I felt like in certain settings maybe I should take my kippah off, and that thought never would have crossed my mind growing up in the United States and, you know, in the 2020s. So it's something about making people feel comfortable and welcome, and, you know, we joke that, okay, if all the New Yorkers move to Florida, then wouldn't that turn Florida into New York? But it's the ones that we want to move here are the ones that have the same ideals as us: freedom, liberty.
Now there's going to be an interview process, huh?
Yes. So.
Well, I will also, I forgot to mention this before. So in 3 months into the war, there was a family that we were sitting there, their family was held hostage. And we went for coffee in Herzliya. And I said, "You guys really need a vacation." And I said, "You need to come to Bal Harbor. It really looks like this, but it's a little bit different, but the same." Yeah. He goes, "Okay, how?" Well, 2 phone calls later, they ended up coming to Bal Harbor, and he looks at me and goes, I get it now. Can we move here? I said that's beyond me. But now, in a question to you, Rabbi, in one sentence or more, what is the most important message Jewish families need to hear right now?
One sentence?
I put that
Rabbi,
there just in case it would help.
Doesn't happen. Try to make it 1 minute. What I would say is the following. And again, going back to since October 7th, there was a big gap in our relationship between either, religious, not religious, Israelis, non-Israelis, etc. What happened, and the Miami community was, wow, I'd say kol hakavod. Everybody was incredible in trying to get close to our Israeli brethren in a way that I could tell you, in our shul, we started the fundraiser on that day. And somebody asked me, where's the money going to? I have no idea where the money is going to. That night, I got phone calls already from Israel. But what happened is that the commanders and the villager, whoever needed help, we helped. We helped a lot, thank God. And many, many communities did too. But what happened after that? A month later, I was in Israel. I said, it's nice to help. I need to be there. And I called every single one of the people who asked us for help, and I made a personal connection. Last week, fast forward 4 or 5 trips later, I was in Israel 2 weeks ago, and every time I go to Israel, I call them back. It became my family, my friends. We kept a very close connection, and the tattooed people, blue hair people that I never really had a close connection with because of evident reasons. At the end of the day, they are my family. We became one. We're in contact. We go out together. I don't call anymore my cousins when I go to Israel. I call them. I have dinner with them. And that's my message. So we are one big family. Yeah. Find them, talk to them, become one. And that's the strength we have. When we're united, nobody could stop us.
So it's about bringing people here and as well bringing them back and coming to see them there. And when El Al asks you, who are you here to see? You have a long list of family members now to share, huh? Okay, now, I will say one sentence, but that's okay. What gives you the most hope when you look at your congregation today?
I think that in many congregations, not just our own congregation, but there's been a renewed sense of national identity since October 7th. And in many communities, especially, for example, my niece lives in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and the number of young couples that have joined the synagogue since October 7th, and Hebrew schools and Sunday schools in non-Orthodox communities have in many communities, have seen a tremendous significant rise in affiliation. And that's because we respond to the hate and the negativity by affirming our Judaism. And I think that's a very positive thing. And I think that we should build upon it and make more avenues for such. We shouldn't have to wait until such a trauma occurs to the national identity. But I think that we can build upon it and create avenues for further younger affiliation for those who have been marginalized by traditional methodologies of joining a Jewish community.
Now, an important question. So are you opening more schools here now for the influx of people coming in?
So part of that tone at the top with the Florida legislature was, I believe it was now 3 years ago, that they passed universal school choice in Florida.
Yes.
So that has opened up more avenues, more funding for smaller schools to start up. There's actually, I think, a school in this building on this campus that was started like post, the voucher program. So that's something where another reason to move down.
Not that we needed more. In our closing word, is there any?
Closing words. I personally learned a lesson from since October 7th. Is that you see a person. Unfortunately, the way God made the world and nature is that you see someone and you judge them. I discovered heroes of a level that I'm ashamed that I would not do what they do for us. And I speak about the soldiers of the IDF. I became very close to one of them, for example, and he was 500 days serving in the past war. And he lost his business. And one day I stood up on a Friday night in the congregation, and in my speech I said, who here would donate their business to someone else? And nobody raised their hand. I said, well, he did. He's a regular guy. He had a successful business, and he gave it away just for us to be safe there and to be safe here. And for me, I see people, that's it, I learned my lesson. I don't judge anyone based on the way they look, because inside you could have very hidden diamonds, but in Israel, every person who lives there, who works there, and who served there is a diamond, giving their lives for us.
Well said. Closing.
You know when you're on an airplane and they, at the very beginning, they make those announcements, in case the cabin is depressurized, an oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling, put it on yourself and your children and elderly afterwards. Yes. So although this is all about Israel, about the whole conference is how to advocate for Israel, I think it's very, very important that the Jewish communities of North America become stronger so that we can help Israel. So I'll give you an example. It was very unpopular at the time. Yossi Beilin, not one of my favorite politicians, but I agreed with him then and I agree with him now. It was in 1996 at the GA, Jewish Federation of North America, have these conferences, and he got up and he was booed off the stage. What did he say? He said in 1996, the gross domestic product of Israel is $100 billion. Every single penny that Americans give, Hadassah, Witzo, Bar Ilan University, Hebrew, you add it all up, it was only $1 billion a year. He said that's 1% of the Israeli gross domestic product. We could live with 99 cents out of every dollar. Take your $1 billion and invest in Jewish education in America for 4 years. Then you can start giving us, but the whole point is, I agreed with him, he was booed off the stage. No. We have to make affordable Jewish education. Florida is an exception to the rule. My children in New York City, one of their salaries goes to educate their kids. It is so expensive. Can you imagine if instead of 3% of Jewish kids getting a Jewish education? And why not? It's not just accessibility, because there aren't enough schools, but it's because of the price. In New York City, it's $50,000 a year to educate a Jewish kid. Here in Miami, it's $35,000 a year. If you got 3 kids, that's $100,000 a year to send your kids to Jewish day school. We have to create a methodology to make our Jewish communities stronger. Education is the best way to do that, so that the next generations are so smart, so educated, know how to respond to anti-Semitism, that we are therefore able to protect the state of Israel.
To that I say thank you all for coming on with me here. I've learned a lot from each of you, and I now personally have more questions for all 3 of you, but thank you for joining me.
Thousands of people from various backgrounds, unique skills, and one shared aspiration, an aspiration for change. To create, build, plan, develop, and expand to new and exciting worlds. For over half a century, we have led in building the country. We choose to cope with the greatest challenges every day. Thanks to the faith in our abilities, flexibility, and resilience as a company. The knowledge and experience, combined with our fields of activity, enable us to generate competition in all sectors we choose to operate, while supplying a tremendous collection of diverse solutions and services to our clients and business partners in our 4 fields of activities. Producing numerous raw materials for the construction industry, developing and building real estate projects and residential neighborhoods, building and operating different concession projects, among them transportation and logistics, designing and constructing massive engineering mega projects in the air, at sea, on the land, and in the depths of the earth. Thanks to the most competent managers and employees in the field. Thanks to the expertise, experience, and financial strength. Thanks to the constant movement, determination, marking, and attaining the next goal. Thanks to all these, we are strengthening existing activities and constantly developing additional groundbreaking areas while integrating advanced technologies and promoting innovation in the field. Thanks to all of these, we are leading. Shapir Group, infrastructure for a better life.
For our next panel, focusing on the impact of intermarriage, we'll now call upon, Rabbi Aaron Asherov and Rabbi Ariel Yeshurin.
So as was mentioned in the beginning of the conference, there are tens of thousands of people in this room, but millions more who watch us. So I'd like to begin by stating the following. I revisited the data of the Pew Research from 2021 about intermarriage, and I noticed some nuance that is not often debated. The fact that every instance of intermarriage represents a single Jewish young person who decides to marry out. Every instance of in-marrying represents two Jewish young persons who decide to marry in. And if you look at it that way, the data is much more optimistic because the immunity to this phenomena that is very concerning to our people is forging Jewish identity. Now the two of you each stand in front of an arena where such a forging of identity is being made. I would like to begin with you, Rabbi Yeshurun. You are the head of a community, you are the spiritual leader of a community over here of people who come from another diaspora into the United States and not only become American, but become American Jews. And being exposed to this phenomena and its cultural roots, how to these people, and specifically to their second generation, such forging is possible?
So let me first make some order with the numbers. So the Pew study that you mentioned indeed has a 61% assimilation rate in North America, but it's really a confusing number because you're throwing in the Orthodox community into the equation where assimilation is close to zero. The real number is 72%, and that's a high number. That's 7 out of 10 American Jews will leave the faith. And that's a very, very...
No, it's 7 out of 20.
Well, according to...
Because this nuance.
Now, these numbers are not so encouraging. And what I see from my community, people come from Latin America. In Latin America, we don't have that much assimilation rates in certain countries. Argentina is an exception, but Venezuela and Colombia, some of these countries, the assimilation rates are pretty low. When they come to this country, first generation is okay, but when they go off to college and they meet people, that problem starts to arise in the second generation of Latin American Jews who come to America. And it's a challenge, and they come back, and we have faced that challenge, and we're trying to make sense of it, but it's a very, very difficult reality that's unfolding now in the Latin American community.
So the answer, as I said, is forging a strong Jewish identity, and this naturally happens in high schools. And we have with us Rabbi Ashraf, who is the head of the Jewish Culture High School over here in Miami. Give it to him. He deserves it, yeah.
It's not easy speaking to a sellout crowd.
Yeah. So how is it being done? And most importantly for me, what I'm interested to hear is the feedback that you get from young Orthodox Jews who study at your institution about this challenge.
So I've been in education now for almost 20 years. So this problem is not a modern day problem. It goes back a while. And I remember, and the greatest story, and it's pre-October 7th, now everyone's all obsessed with Jewish identity. I get it. We were massacred, and now we want to talk about Jewish identity. But the reality is, what I do in high school is, and I make it a very clear point, assimilation is a choice, and it's a choice that your parents probably allowed you to make as well. It started from the home. When I take in students to high school, I oftentimes tell parents, you know, we're partners, right? I own them half the day, then you owe them, I give them back to you to sleep at night. If we send mixed messages, it's a matter of, it's a coin flip. I visited one of my students years ago, very, very bright young man at Harvard University. He went to Harvard. I said, I'm gonna go visit you in Harvard 2 years after you graduated high school. And I said to him, what happened, because I saw him in a modern Orthodox high school for years, how's it going here on campus? And you know what he tells me? He said, Rabbi, the first Shabbat, I was basically almost like twisted and convinced to break Shabbat. So I said, why are they attacking your identity so quickly here? So I realized that in high school you have an opportunity. If you don't set the stage, if you don't set the roots, middle school, high school, elementary school, but high school is when they're young adults and they start shaping their opinion, you're going to pay a very, very high price. And then this Pew study, and I know Rabbi's smirking, it drove everybody crazy because the numbers were odd. I oftentimes say very unpopular things in my school. Things, you know, this is an Israel conference. I had a parent look at me and say, I don't want my child going to Israel if you're going to visit beyond the green line. I asked the parent to leave the school. I said, we are not mission aligned. You are a problem. Now, that parent would also be the very parent that if a child brought home a non-Jewish partner, would be, oh, that's so sweet, let's make something of it. That's not a good response. And this is where, you know, it's the beginning of the end, so to speak.
So back in 2019, there was an American Jewish author named Michael Chabon. I don't know how famous his statement is among American Jewry. As an Israeli, I was exposed to it. He basically said that intermarriage is a mitzvah, according to his
it's a kiruv,
conception. No, he said, in marrying is a ghetto of two. This is what he said. And basically implemented neo-Marxist progressive ideas into the concept of intermarrying in Judaism. It became a mitzvah, and this statement of his did backlash, even among Reform Judaism, for instance. But what I get from the mainstream of American Jewry is that there is some amount of recalibration of the sacred alliance between the American Jews and the left in general after October 7th. Do you see or get any kind of recalibration in the issue of interfaith marriage, of inclusion, that is basically the ideological engine behind interfaith marriage in non-Orthodox communities in your surroundings? Rabbi Asraf.
So first I want to make a comment about what Rabbi Asraf said. Look, Orthodox Jews are only 10% of American Jewry. We can't just cancel out because we don't agree with their opinion. There are 35% of Jews in this country who are affiliated with Reform Judaism, 18% affiliated with Conservative Judaism. If we want to grow as a people, we have to reach across the aisle. We can't just say, well, we don't agree, we have the different ideology, and therefore you're not part of this program. We want to make them part of the program. We have to inspire them. We have to instill in them Jewish pride. We have to show them what it means to be Jewish and why it's important to remain connected to Jewish tradition. And that's on us, that we come from that place, and we have the platform, and I have the pulpit. He has the educational expertise, and we have to somehow understand that 10% Orthodox Jews in America is not going to cut it. We have a real epidemic here. The Jewish people are losing numbers in scores. And if we don't somehow decide to be forthcoming and embracing, we are going to have a very big issue.
I just want to play defense for a moment, though, and you know, I love Rabbi Yeshua and we get along great. I don't believe in doing kiruv on the other faiths. In other words, I'm not going to a reform school and I'm not going to bend over backwards to them. I'll give you an example. There are many schools in Miami that take non-halachic Jewish students into their schools. I will not take a student who has a conversion from Reform Judaism into my school, because assimilation also happens inside the classroom, and I won't do that. And people criticize me for that. Well, why not? I said, well, if they're not recognizing the state of Israel, I'm not recognizing their conversion here. The reform movement is larger. Of course, they're a little older in America, and yes, you see that problem there, but would you say, Rabbi, that why do we have to cave to them? And I feel bad, you know, kind of going against some large institutions, but the Jewish federations, as an example, they typically get the most money from Reform and Conservative Jews. They don't want to hear from people like me. They think what I say is crazy. They think if I take students to Hebron, I'm an extremist.
So I would like to second that and to ask Rabbi Yeshua on this context. So I do believe, and I do hear, that within non-Orthodox denominations, they are to a very significant extent troubled by assimilation. They won't say it out loud. Only the extremists of them, like Michael Chabon, would say that this is a mitzvah, להתבולל. Do they at all take inspiration from the solutions that Orthodox Judaism has to this issue? For instance, not to take in non-halachic Jews into your school.
No one is asking for any halachic concessions, but we have a message. We can use many platforms without compromising one iota of the Code of Jewish Law, just through dialogue. We're not asking to compromise. We're asking for live and let live, get into dialogue, showcase your beautiful message out there, voice it, and let the other person hear it. And I think if we do that, and if we have the patience and that wherewithal, that strength to really come out and engage with the community, because at the end of the day, we're all brothers. Our enemies don't care if we are Reform, if we are conservative, if we are Reconstructionist, if we are Renewal Judaism, if we are Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox or unaffiliated. They look at us as one people. We have to start looking at our nation as one people. And we have to, without making any compromise, any halachic compromise or concession, reach out as brothers and as sisters and have a conversation. And that's a step one, and it's a very important step if we are to save American Jews.
Yes. So on your behalf, I would like to thank Rabbi Aaron Asraf and Rabbi Arieli Sharon. Thank you very much for those messages. Thank you.
I know. I give it to them again.
תקבל עוד יותר טוב. אתה הכי טוב.
להציע יותר טוב, משה.
גבירותיי ורבותיי, תחת זה עתה בדבר התעופה בן גוריון. ברוכים הבאים לישראל.
Israel is strong and growing. Now more than ever is the time to make Aliyah.
Okay, for our last panel, for our last panel of the day, focusing on combating the rise of Jew hatred from the fringe right, moderated by myself, Ariella Novak, and accompanied by Brian Leib, CEO of Henry Public Relations and Foreign Policy Advisor to Congressman Abraham Hamada, and also Rabbi Yaakov Menken, Executive Vice President of the Coalition of Jewish Values and board member appointed by President Donald Trump to the Advisory Board of Religious Leaders of the United States Religious Liberty Commission. Welcome. You see, this is going to be the most exclusive conversation of the day. So we're not going to tell every secret, okay, guys, but just a few secrets. Okay, so.
You know what it means when they show a rabbi a time limit? Nothing at all.
Are they? Okay, so with voices like, we're going to start on this. I know we were just chatting yesterday. With voices like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens openly flirting with Holocaust minimization and or anti-Jewish tropes, how can mainstream conservatives effectively isolate and discredit those narratives before they seep deeper, which I know they already have, into the movement?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you to Besheva and ILTV for putting on this fantastic conference. I'm going to be brutally honest with the audience and with everyone that's watching. It's good to have unity. It's good to be together as Jews. We all need to be speaking out together against the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Nick Fuentes of the world, the Candace Owens of the world. And this is not a problem that we can afford to just look the other way, pretend it's not happening. It is a major, major problem right now that we have in the conservative movement, that we have far right fringe people like Tucker Carlson, like Nick Fuentes, that very much are dictating policy at a national level, at a state level, at a local level. So everyone that cares about fighting back against Jew hatred, everyone that cares about fighting and supporting the very Judeo-Christian values that our country was founded upon, you better start speaking up louder than ever before about what's happening against the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens. Please do not think that they are isolated voices. They need to be shunned and called out every single moment we can.
Absolutely. And by the way, it does keep me up at night. Now, Rabbi, from your vantage point in both the religious and policy worlds, what are the non-negotiable red lines leaders must draw when anti-Semitism is repackaged as politics or commentary?
One of the biggest problems that we've seen, and here's where Kevin Roberts went so critically wrong. He's the president of the Heritage Foundation, and he did not try to understand what the critics of Tucker Carlson were saying. He just said, "Oh, if you're criticizing if you're criticizing Israeli policy, you don't have to be anti-Semitic. A Christian can do so without being an anti-Semite." Well, of course, that's a total straw man because nobody ever said otherwise. What's totally in common, I can take you back 125 years ago to a definition of anti-Semitism. You know what an anti-Semite is? In 10 seconds. An anti-Semite believes without evidence that all Jewish property is stolen and that the Jews believe they can be unfair to everybody else. You know those two things, you know everything Tucker Carlson has to say about the Jewish community, everything that Nick Fuentes has to say to the Jewish community, and not coincidentally, everything Ilan Omar has to say about Palestine and Israel, and Rashida Tlaib, and the only two things that AOC claimed to know about the Middle East when elected to Congress. So there's the obvious red lines, both for conservatives and for liberals, as far as the way forward. But in the Jewish community, there's only one side that's taking it seriously, very sadly.
Now, I will ask you, Ryan, what action can we make now, right now, to confront and stop the normalization of this hate? Politically, culturally, and legally. I feel like, there's many panels like this, many conversations, but what should we do in next steps?
It's very simple. I just mentioned it. Everyone has to speak up. And you've got to put aside any political ambitions that one might have, how it might hurt your reputation, how it might hurt your business. You have to speak up. I know there's a lot of people within the conservative movement in America that are afraid to speak up against Tucker Carlson because of their connections to people in the White House. That is foolish, that is short-sighted, and that is the kind of behavior that allowed the Holocaust to exist. The left wing in this country, Ariella, has, maybe not the entire left wing, but a lot of the Democratic Party has been taken over, as the rabbi said, by the Ilhan Omars of the world, the AOCs of the world. Anti-Semitism, aka Jew hatred, has 100% corrupted the Democratic Party at this point. It is now making its way into the Republican Party. I am a Republican. Republicans we have to speak up now before it gets even worse. And that's how we heard Congressman Fine this morning talking about it. Thank you. Everyone has to speak out against it, regardless of how it's going to hurt your career, political ambitions. I'm sorry, just 10 seconds.
No, go ahead.
When I was in the Newsmax studio 2 weeks after October 7th, I impromptu looked at the camera and I spoke to an audience of millions and I said, the time is always right to do what's right. And you have to pick between good and evil. And right now, regardless of where Jew hatred is coming from right now, you have to speak up against that, and that's good. Forget about whatever's going to potentially happen on the back end to you. We've got to raise our voices louder, stronger than ever before.
Absolutely. And in closing, I know that Representative Hamada said in his latest article, "I have said before that America first does not mean America alone, and I will continue to champion this perspective. Our country is strongest when we stand shoulder to shoulder with our allies. A strong Israel makes America stronger and safer."
I think that we have to realize what it means for America. I mean, first of all, the Jewish community, what I said earlier, the Jewish community on the left sadly backed the anti-Semitism that was being voiced by the likes of Ilan Omar. You don't find that on the political right. I'm cast as a right-winger, but I'm not. I'm into Torah values, Jewish values. When the Republican Party is going to be closer to Jewish values, then I'm going to go with them. But if they're not, then of course I'm not. That's because my values are driven by somewhere else, inherent, greater than politics. Sadly, those on the left, politics is their new religion. And that's very tragic for America. What makes the biggest difference for America, and the reason why everybody must speak out against anti-Semitism, is we don't need to talk about the Middle East at all to tell the difference between those protesting for Israel and those protesting for Hamas. They claim to be pro-Palestine, right? But they're not. And you know that because are they flying American flags or are they burning them? Are they attacking the police or are they thanking them? Are the police there to protect them from the outside or to protect others from them? Do they pick up gum wrappers or commit vandalism? All this is about the tear down of American civilization. It's not just about Israel. It's a critical issue that every American has to take as their own.
In closing, I'm going to pass to you in 1 second. Absolutely. And I'm going to pass to you for a final word. Now, something that came up this morning, I was reading, and it said Tucker Carlson says he's buying a home in Doha, and that is his approach to being accused of being a mouthpiece of Qatar. I'm not sure how one solved the other. And then he says, I am an American and a free man, and I will be wherever I want to be.
Nothing says that you are a proud America and that you are America first while you're telling the Prime Minister of Qatar that you're buying a property in Doha because you like Doha. By the way, Tucker Carlson claims to be a Christian, but if you're a Zionist and you're a Christian, he's disgusted by you. But he wants to buy a property in Doha where you're really not allowed to be Christian. So it is asinine what is happening right now with the Tucker Carlsons of the world. My closing just remarks very quickly is that there is a wing within the Republican Party that says things like America only or America first only. I'm here to tell you they are the minority. They are not the majority. America first does not mean America alone. It will never mean America alone. America is as strong as our allies are, and it's as strong as we are against our enemies. So America first does not mean America alone.
Amen. And thank you both very much. I would like to thank everyone here for being here today, our distinguished audience for joining us for this important conference. We look forward to seeing you again next year. On behalf of both Besheva and ILTV, thank you so much for being here.